50. How did he do that?
Well,
It just seems to happen almost, invisibly, as this one is driven through the covers. It evades the first field. It won't evade the fielder riding that extra cover boundary though, and it will be 2, so Root will move on to 5, and he'll feel a bit better about that. We're having a look at the drop of Johnny Bestow by Colin de Grandon. So tough when you're in your follow through, isn't it, as a quicker bowler. I mean, he's not that quick at the moment, de Grandon, but
who's he quicker than?
well, not that many.
Rashid.
But through his it was right into his follow through as Roots onto the back foot, dabs that down
Root's
to
starting to
Gully.
now, look.
Yep, he's gone into nudge nurdle mode and just keeping that scoreboard ticking.
Toby,
Is that all out on the nursery?
I don't know.
Would they not be better off?
What is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
Why on earth do you spend all of that money on a ticket for an occasion like this, and then go and bugger about on the nursery ground at the back? Sometimes
That is a teaser.
Are you going to get off your soapbox, Tony?
No, not really, because that just really it annoys me for Test matches. This one is worked away through mid-wicket. It's
much
fielded
understandable
by
for
Ross
Test
Taylor,
matches.
and they will take a single they otherwise I don't think would have taken. So never mind, never run on a misfield. They did on that occasion, and the miscreant was Ross Taylor at mid-wicket.
As I was saying, Toby has tweeted in, leaving for church in about 10 minutes. Not saying I'm going to, but the temptation is strong to keep a headphone in during the sermon.
Or even put a little prayer in.
In comes de Grandon.
Send a
Root was
prayer for
looking
us,
to cut, and it was cut down to Gully. So just for 5 off that over from de Grandon. He has none for 8 from his 3. Bestow on 31, Root on 6. It's tough going, it's nervous going. If you're an England fan, then you will be chewing those nails. And Roy and Root know how important it is to keep their wickets intact and ensure that platform is there. The weather, however, is starting to brighten up. They won't. At what point do we think, chaps, that they will feel the storm is weathered and we can start to open our shoulders? I'm pretty sure it's not yet.
Not quite, but there are degrees of opening your shoulders, and obviously they get deeper and deeper. I think it'll be a more incremental procedure. They won't talk at the end of an over and say, right, we're going for it now. They'll just ease up through the gears.
Yeah, I think they've just got to keep the scoreboard ticking over.
Cautious.
And just making sure
Cautious shoulder opening.
The ropes don't
They
go
keep
too far.
picking up either a boundary or 3 or 4 singles and over for now. They'll be happy. Change your bowling.
It's going to be Lockie Ferguson. And the first ball just climbs a little bit on Bestow, who shaped as if to cut, then decided to try and play straighter, and it went between bat and pad, but high, well above the height of the top of his off stump.
He must have been one of the finds of the tournament, I would think.
Oh, he's terrific. He has been. Actually dug that in quite short, didn't he, to get...
He didn't play in the first group match, did he? He was injured for the
yes, he was.
in the New Zealand group match.
And he's tossed the ball back from hand to hand. He's got one slip in place, and
That's
that will be a wide. It was short again. Bestow ducked forward. Damascena's arms are spread like that of a giant vulture, and it's a wide.
Arthur Shah.
Wide.
Arthur Shire says, I'm embarrassed, but I imagine Matthew Huggard would be delighted by the fact that when he flashed up on the screen, I thought, oh, it's Russell Crowe.
Yes, Ferguson's in, right arm over, up onto his toes goes Bestow, pushed away to extra cover, no run.
If I remember from Arthur Shire's visit here, he does wear glasses. You might need to get a new prescription.
Yes, Russell Crowe, I'm not quite sure. He's looking, I thought Matthew Hogarth was looking pretty trim, actually.
He's going to be speaking at a club I play for's dinner in September.
I would imagine he would
Hill.
be highly entertaining. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. In fact, any veteran of the 2005 Ashes, I would imagine, has stories to tell, and
except Michael
is
Vaughan.
happy telling them. Well, yeah. As in comes Ferguson, up onto his toes goes Bestow. Again, it's out to extra cover, and again there is no run.
I'm not sure what Peterson would be like on the after-dinner circuit. Not sure if he does that kind of thing.
I think he does, I think he's quite entertaining,
Yeah.
actually. He's
maybe Strauss would be quite boring.
well, everyone's different. Andrew Strauss has a dry sense of humour, but he is quite amusing. 57 for 1. Bestow on 31. He's facing Ferguson. He's driven this, but again it's straight out to extra cover, but they're able to take a single this time, and they might be looking for overthrows. But needless to say, our director, free to air or not, some of the direction of this World Cup has been absolutely pants. I've got to be honest.
I'm sure they're still working off the same feed. I don't think Channel 4 has suddenly sent a whole.
No. Everything is the same. Is the one feed, and the captioning has been average a lot of the time. The camera angles have not always been great. Certainly, the ability to provide the panorama when you need it has often not been there. But it was only a single. Thank you very much. In comes Ferguson. Root pulls, and he pulls on the bounce to backward square. It's Guptill, and again there is no run, so
strange
just a single and a wide from
strange place for Guptill to lurk.
Well, yes, it is.
He also does low there, doesn't he?
Yeah, indeed he does. Guptill, would you believe, is top, I think, of the runs saved table in this World Cup.
That must be down to catches, however they work it out.
He's going matches inner ring and outfield. Yeah, well he is. Ferguson is going to be in to Root. Root cuts, manages to avoid backward point, but Trent Bolt is down there on the third man boundary and will restrict them to a single. So 3 from that over, 2 off the bat, 1 was that wide, and it continues to be an uphill struggle, but England are grinding it.
Jay Grover suggesting Root might have some pre-Ashes nerves.
Could be. I mean, I just think it's, England would have loved a fast road of a track. They haven't got that. They've got one you have to really grind on, and that's what they're having to do.
You can't prepare wickets on demand. Some people seem to think you can, but you can't. It's weather dependent. Depends how much cricket's also been played on the square.
Yep, indeed. 59 for 1. Target, of course, 242. De Grandom is in, and that's a big shot. I think it's going down leg. Marius Erasmus thinks it's going down leg. A man from Bolland. And
they still have
I
their
very
review.
much doubt they'll review that.
They still have their review because it was umpire's call on that first one, so they kept it.
Did.
But
both teams have their review.
It doesn't look like they're going to use this one.
I think that's a wise choice.
Mike Taylor suggesting, not sure buggering around in the nursery is a good idea, however much you've paid for the
Well, actually, my choice of phrase probably not ideal in that instance. As down the track comes Root, looking to pull him away over mid-wicket, completely missed it. It was through to Latham, and that is a real sign of frustration getting at this England pair.
Well, I think it was a good idea, but the execution wasn't quite right. Root's going down there to look for a drive over the top, and when it wasn't there, he might have been.
It's just a sense they're struggling to pick up the pace of this track, though, Andy, isn't it? De Grandon's in again. On again, Root, and he's taken it. Root is out. Yep. He took the outside edge. Root was looking to drive. It's through to the wicketkeeper. England have lost their second wicket, and I think Joseph Henry Root has to have a little look at himself there, because that was a
very
poor piece of cricket. And that's born out of pure frustration for England. He came dancing down the track looking to pull, completely missed it. He then chased a very wide one that was going wider with his feet a mile from the bat, and all he did was nick.
Very unrooty, that, wasn't it?
Very unroot-like.
There's plenty of time in the match as well. I don't really quite understand why he's doing it.
It's what pressure can do under pressure situations, particularly when you're up against a team with the expertise of New Zealand in bowling in these conditions.
Edgar Allan Poe, I think, agrees with you. There's always nerves with England. That's why we win very little.
Well, that's true. Try being a South Africa fan, though. That's been a frustrating journey in the last 2 or 3 years, I think.
Well, judging by the anguished wail I heard from the green room, at least one co-commentator agrees with you that was a poor piece of cricket.
That was shocking.
We might be hearing about it in 3.5 hours.
That wouldn't have been a certain Mr. Henderson, would it? That was. I think you could look at. If I could, brainless would be one word. Daft, but born out of frustration. I
think so.
And a few were doomed on Twitter as well. So I won't read them out.
We're still favourites. Keep the faith.
Josh Robinson suggesting that 7 off 30, that route innings will define New Zealand's win. Very fighting talk.
Well, yeah, it's been tough going.
We are having a
England.
drinks break with that wicket, so you're not missing anything.
Yep.
Canal suggesting Root got fed up. Completely unlike him to score at such a rate, and that pressure got to him finally. I think we agree with you there.
Well, there'll be Owen Morgan coming in now, isn't it? Now that, I think, is going to be a fascinating test
I think
as
there's
captain.
no prizes for where Ferguson's going to bowl at Owen Morgan.
Well, no, this is your day of destiny as England captain. Everything for the last 4 years has been building towards this. You're at your home ground, your home ground for England, but also his home ground club-wise. Conscious of what does he continue to, really live up to that England ethos, which is just keep attacking, just back yourself. They can't get stuck in a rut.
No, that's absolutely
And
true.
yet, runs are not flowing freely. The bowling is tighter than, and that's what's the name. And
this man's going to
it's
have
not
to
easy.
face
Well,
it.
here he is.
We need a partnership, England.
Old O'Connor had a farm, E-I-O and Morgan.
59 for 2. Morgan, a new man at the crease. He will be facing Colin de Grandhomme, who has 3 balls left of the 17th over. We're in the second power play. Best of 148, of course, for Owen Morgan.
Against Afghanistan.
Yeah. And all of those sixes, I don't think we'll be seeing that today. And the first ball from de Grandhomme is right onto his off stump, and Morgan just drops a bat on it and gets himself off the mark immediately.
Very noticeable there for Morgan, and probably for Root too, how close the ring fielders are for de Grandhomme. They don't want anybody dropping and running. They want you to try and play a shot at this nibbly bowling.
Well, they'll feel that psychologically, Root was got out psychologically as much as he was got out by the final outswinger that was a million miles away from the stumps. It was a mind games delivery, and Bestow shows his captain, who is still there. Somehow, despite any number of inside edges that could have clattered into his stumps, he's showing the grits, the guts, and spit in his eye.
Matt Sells
just suddenly misquote Johnny Cash.
Just asking, is the root swing at the 2019 version of a Gatting reverse swing?
Maybe not in that category.
In comes de Grandhomme again. Forward comes Bestow. De Grandhomme fields.
It's like watching
no
Test
run.
cricket, isn't it?
Perhaps Butler can come in and do something like that, or perhaps Josh Butler is due an innings.
Well, this is what
Entire
people are
chance
saying.
to be a
60
hero.
for 2.
I think Canal has the answer. He says Moeen Ali is the answer to everything, surely.
What? Where were New Zealand at this stage?
About the same. I don't think they're very different.
Possibly a few more for 1, so
Yeah, I
probably
think so.
in front.
I think so. 1 for 9 for de Grandhomme off his 4. Morgan's off the mark, and he will be facing the next over.
Swing it both ways.
182 needed from 33 overs for England.
Suggesting this is basically the same game as the semi against the Australia.
Yes, but sadly in reverse.
No, I don't know. If you're talking about the semi England played against Australia, not at all. Because England were about 120 for naught at this stage.
Yes.
They were. Ferguson's going to continue. Morgan is up onto his toes. There's a ring of 3.
Yeah.
A ring of fire. To quote Johnny Cash again. That's the second time he's popped up in the last 2 minutes.
How many more references?
I don't know.
You're the singer.
I had gravel in his guts and spit in your eye, and all of a sudden there's a ring of fire. There is indeed. There's a point. There's a gully, and there's a kind of a short third man, as well as a slip. So
Huge gap off of the mid wicket to tempt.
Ferguson is bowling from the nursery end. Morgan, and he's guess what? He's managed to get through the ring of fire, but the man at deep third man will get there, but it won't stop them taking 2. It's de Grandhomme taking a well-earned rest down on that third man boundary.
It can only be 2 fielders in front of the
Well, let's have a look. There's a slip, a gully. There's a kind of a backward point, and they've dropped Colin de Grandhomme
6
back,
inside
haven't
though. When they only need 5, they've got 1 extra 1 inside, which is good.
they?
That's
Ross
good
Taylor
cricket.
is the man at slip next to Tom Latham. Lockie Ferguson is barrelling in. Down the track comes Morgan and squirts it away off an outside edge to cover.
Didn't that come off his pad?
Well,
I thought it was a pad.
I thought it was an outside edge. The good news is, in a way, the reason I wasn't quite sure is because the sun had come out quite a lot and made it harder to see. So that should work a little bit in England's favour. Oh, don't forget, New Zealand have never lost to England at Lords. Only 3 games, 1 abandoned, but 2 wins for New Zealand and none for England in ODIs at Lords, as this one is dropped short. Morgan ducks underneath it. It's through to Latham, and there is no run. When was it? 2013. That was when Guptill got his 103, wasn't it? New Zealand won by 5 wickets.
I think I was at that game. Yeah, pretty sure I was. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was 2
a bit of a
games.
tame game that was. Chased down 230 or something.
Well, England needed to chase that down. Yeah.
No, New Zealand.
Oh,
chased
New
it
Zealand
down.
needed to,
Yeah.
and they obviously made it. Took space to spare by 5 wickets. This one is pulled down to a long leg by Morgan. There is, of course, a man there, and it's just a single.
It was in May as well. It was quite a cold day.
All right. Well, I think the interesting thing, I mean, it's very hard to look historically because the game has changed, and England's cricket has changed so dramatically since 2013. But nonetheless,
2015 was when they flicked the switch, obviously.
yeah, the board statistics are that played 2, lost to New Zealand at Lords, and they'll want to be making it 3rd time lucky today. Ferguson is in to Bestow. Bestow is forward on the drive, but he drives straight to mid-on, and there is no run. So Ferguson has none for 6 off his 2. Very economical indeed. Bestow is on 32. Morgan will be facing the first ball of the next over, and he has 4 from 6.
Twitter's gone very quiet.
It's nerves. It's nerves.
Yeah, tension.
They're all hiding behind the sofas.
I think that could very well be the case.
Come on out
63
and
for
send us a
2.
message.
63 for 2.
No, I feel safe behind here.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think that's very much the case.
Well, Lewis has won the British Grand Prix this afternoon, so there's been
All right.
an English victory today.
And then isn't there some tennis going on, and somewhere some netball?
Netball
going
all over,
the
yes,
place.
yes.
Stuff going on all over the place. And plenty of county cricket as well, of course there would be on the day of a major final. Oh,
Ooh.
Morgan's reaching for that. Has he got enough of it? Just about. As it was again, the ball was
So
a
well
mile
done.
from his body. He was literally looking for the cover drive. He stretched it, lofted it over extra cover. The man running back
Williamson, yeah.
was Williamson, was it?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
And he looks
Right,
like he
the
might be
toe.
in the game. It was indeed Kane Williamson, and he just couldn't quite get there. It plugged, and they're restricted for 2. And there is no way in the world that Owen Morgan was in charge of, in control of that shot. De Grondom's in, and
Oh,
Morgan,
gosh.
and there's a slow one outside, and Morgan has a little dabble as he darts down the wicket. It was through to Latham, and he wasn't able to lay any bat on it. But he was looking for something and got nowhere near it. That wind predictor is shifting ever more in New Zealand's favour. 76 to 24 in England's favour at the moment, but that's quite a sea change. Down comes Morgan again, and de Grandon saw him coming and just dropped it that little bit shorter.
Bobby Bobart's
And there
just
was no
asking,
run.
can I just go to bed? When I wake up, it'll all be over.
Messi Jayes has
You
appeared
can
at
do
the
that.
doorway.
All right.
Djokovic has apparently won the 3rd set on a tie break. So is that 2-1? I'm guessing
2-1
that's
to
2-1.
Djokovic, yeah.
Okay. 65-4-2 England. We're halfway through the 19th over. De Grandon 1 for 11. Cut by
Straight
Morgan,
to the
but
field.
cut straight to backward point, and there's no run. And as ever, we're now harking back on the screen to watch Australia taking England wickets. As if we didn't know. We're watching Morgan dismissals, where he's skied balls and come under a barrage of short bowling. De Grandon's going to be in again. Morgan pulls this one down past backward square, but Lockie Ferguson is the man on duty at deep backward square, and it will just be a single. So 3 so far from this De Grandon over, 1 ball left.
I don't think de Grandon has quite got the wherewithal to be giving Morgan any chin music.
No, but he doesn't need to. He's frustrating England. He's frustrating England with balls that they can't hit, basically. Just based on pace and accuracy. That's a horrible ball. That's a full toss. And even then he got away with it. Bestow just tickled it round the corner. There is, of course, a man there. And there's no run. Chris Wokes is peeping out through the frosted glass. It's almost like he doesn't want to look.
He's probably been behind the sofa as well.
He might. Well, I don't know if they have sofas in the Lord's dressing rooms, but there's a very good chance of it.
Spicy Golden Duck. Afternoon, Gorillas.
Hello to you.
Great commentary. Looks like there are some dark clouds looming over Lords. It was darker earlier.
It depends whether you're talking meteorologically or metaphorically.
And Anna
you could be right. You could be right in both cases.
Anna says she's flagging, guys. Please use outdoor voices to keep me awake.
Outdoor voices. What are they, Anna? Just shout more. And I think, are we looking at replay? No, we're not. We're just looking at stupid captioning again. And this is tickled around the corner for a single by Morgan. He moves on to 7.
Evil Scooter says
it was a leg by. It was a leg by.
This has Ben Stokes match winning in written all over it.
Well, I
think Butler's going to be the hero.
Well, that'll be music to one person in the green room and at least one person somewhere down in the Exeter general direction.
And big apologies to Swing It Both Ways, who's recording all these sporting events. We're telling him the scores.
Sorry. 67 for 2. Oh, and of course, with this incredible high drama, what's going on out the back? Well, jugglers and men on stilts. Complete nonsense. Forward comes Bestow. That is beautifully driven between cover and extra, and that will be 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Releases a little bit of tension. The required
almost
run rate.
Just a reminder that he's still here, Bestow.
Well, yeah, he got on top of that quite magnificently. That was a gorgeous shot. 5.52 the required run rate. So well within reach, but it's not going to come easy. Andy, are you still feeling good about your all done by 41 overs prediction?
I'm not sure about 41 overs.
Oh, it was you?
Me.
Sorry, it was Steve. I knew one of you had said it'll be done and dusted in 41 overs. Are you still feeling confident about your 41? Oh, you are. Well,
maybe
right,
42nd, 43rd.
Oh, hello. Stretching the rules somewhat. Ferguson's in. Oh, Bestow's chopped on. Inside edge, top edge. And top of stump, rather. And Johnny Bestow's gone. England are 71 for 3. Bestow's gone for 36.
Well, on that point of Johnny Bestow going, who remembers Johnny Bestow? We're back, and England will soon be back in pursuit of the last 3 New Zealand wickets, which will not be easy to get, I promise you, with Devon Conway seemingly as rooted into the Lord's turf as the new stands either side of the media centre, and Kyle Jameson looking pretty good for a number 9 at the other end. I'm joined on Ball by Ball, that's me, at Gary Naylor 999, by Chris Paul and Jono Gordon. I was half expecting Knuckle to come in and introduce us, but he's just lurking in the background there, pressing buttons and moving dials. Gentlemen, I hope you can hear me, and I hope you have plenty of interesting stuff to talk about. 4 sessions into this, the first test match between England and New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just impressed England grinded their way back into some form of respectability and contention, really.
Yeah, I mean, last time I was on the mic, I was speculating on New Zealand declaring 500 on the board an hour or so to go before the close, but it looks much more likely now that they'll be bowled out and England will be setting off in pursuit of 400 or so. And there is some form on this ground for New Zealand making 500 plus and losing, as they did some 5 or 6 years ago, when Alistair Cook got a big 100 in the second innings. But that doesn't happen too often, and Lord's pitch has changed a little in that time. However, England have got a toehold, if not quite a foothold, in this match, but they'll need to win this session, I would suggest, in order to underline the advantage that they've garnered in the first session of today's play. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that first hour's play today, there really wasn't a chance for England until that Mark Wood wicket. And the talk over that first hour, New Zealand looked so comfortable, that this was a bit of a road. But if you look at the strike rate on this pitch, it's anything but a road. And I think it would be interesting to see if we can pick up these wickets, just how well Kyle Jameson et al. can bowl.
Yeah, it's kind of a road is a bit of a misnomer for the pitch. I think you're right. It's not a road, but it's not leaping about, and it's not seaming sideways, and it's not stopping in the pitch, at least not yet. But it's the kind of pitch that's quite difficult to time the ball on, especially when you come in. I mean, Kyle Jameson's driven the ball at least half a dozen times, and I think he only got one through the field. He only managed to get one off the square, and that's because the ball is not really coming onto the bat. But when you are in, you take a bit of weaveling out, as long as you're prepared to play straight and play with the ball under your nose. And what New Zealand got into difficulties is BJ Watling tried to hit a ball from the off stump into the leg side and took an edge. And Mitchell Santner played far too early at a ball and lost his wicket. And we're about to jingle, 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 jingle.
Story of how Kyle Jameson became a man.
So here's to you, Ollie Robinson. Dizzy loves you now, you change your tune. You're not a buffoon. How will you bowl, Ollie Robinson? No one took more county wickets than you the last year or two. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
But Ollie Robinson is on leg stump and tickled round the corner. Not so much tickled as deflected off the pad round the corner, and New Zealand are back underway. They are 315 for 7. Kyle Jameson has 7 not out. He's on strike now. And Devon Conway, a splendid 179 not out on debut, creeping up the charts of the batsman with the highest score on Test debut. He's in the top 10, and he's got the likes of Lawrence Rowe, would you believe, in sight on 214, Shikhar Dhawan on 187. Extraordinary company the South African-based New Zealander is keeping. We'll come to your tweets at the end of the over, but this is Robinson in again, and Jameson drives as he's driven so much that's been bowled to him. He's a tall man, and he can get forward to most things, and he's very happy to go on the drive, but he just can't time anything fielded at mid-off.
A good bit of confidence in Ollie Robinson, this, isn't it? Start with him after lunch.
Yeah, he's done a lot of work in this Test match already, but that's very much his role. He does take a lot of county wickets, he does bowl a lot of deliveries, and he's quite happy to do that with an action that obviously doesn't take a huge amount out of himself. He's short here, and Kyle Jameson jumps all over that and hoiks it, really. It wasn't so much a pull as a slightly crabby shot that goes down to deep mid-wicket and they're through for 2. But already we've seen attacking intent from Jameson straight after lunch to Ollie Robinson. He moves to 9. New Zealand 317 for 7. As I say, I think if New Zealand win this session, they'll be at about 420, 430, and it'll be a long, long way back for England there. Not impossible, but a long way back. Robinson, he's in again. He has 3 for 64, and Jameson again just sort of hoiks it, but again he has no timing off a bottom edge. And Ollie Robinson pays tribute to Mark Wood there by falling over in his follow through. He has a little laugh and a smile. He's had a very difficult 24 hours as Ollie Robinson, but you can see the funny side of falling over, which is good to see a man going about his day job here to the best of his abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder how much more we'll see of him over the next few England Test games, really, Ollie Robinson. So many players coming back into contention and back from injury. But he's looked very tidy.
He has. He's in again, and this is short. And Kyle Jameson says, "Look, if you're going to bowl to me there, I'm going to hit you." But he does hit it, but he hits it all the way down to deep square leg, where there's a fine tumbling catch from Zach Crawley, a tall man getting down well, and he's absolutely been stitched up by like a kipper there, Kyle Jameson. A bonus wicket for England. The 8th one goes 317. Jameson gone for 9.
Well, Ollie Robinson, thrown the ball by his captain, bowled a lot of overs this morning, and that, brave bit of captaincy has certainly paid off for Joe Root there.
Yes, Jono, any thoughts on that dismissal there? I think he's just given it away there, Kyle Jameson. I think outthought by Ollie Robinson and Joe Root. High-risk strategy when New Zealand are looking to get on with it, but mistimed off the top edge. The second wicket today to go from the pull shot, and England will take that all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see you, Gary. It's been a while.
It has. Hello.
Yeah, I think the thing with Jameson is he doesn't play necessarily high-risk cricket, but he likes to hit the ball, doesn't he? So, I don't know if there's been a chat in the Kiwi dressing room at lunch just to say, look, we do want to try and attack it a little bit more. Looks solid on the front foot before lunch, but as you say, without breaking the field too many times. So I don't know whether it's a pitch where it's that easy to time it all that well off the front foot. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, we know how Southey's going to go about it. Wagner very much the same. I think listening to you and Chris talk there, I think the key thing is, and even before that wicket, England to try and take the 3 wickets needed, probably in the first half an hour, 45 minutes, and then have a look from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll break off.
Robinson's in, and this is just nurdled off the pad. The batsman crossed, and Conway helps himself to a leg by. I think, yes, it is 318 for 8, and we're jingling.
It's only a whimsical notion to fly with Tim Southey tonight. I probably won't fly with Tim Southey. And again, I just might.
Yeah, welcome to your tweets.
To be honest, I think people are still finishing the lunch, Gary.
I see. Wow.
I've had a few from Knackle, but they're to let people know what's going on.
Well, I'll just speculate then that Kyle Jameson may not be entirely despondent about his dismissal there, because if Ollie Robinson is getting the ball to stop slightly in the pitch from just short of a length and making the ball mistimed from the cross-batted shot, then you can guarantee that Kyle Jameson will be aiming to do the same. The as yet unjingle bowler is in, and Conway does as he's done literally, it must be 30-40 times, just tucks the ball off the hip down to long leg, walks the single, he's on to 180, and we're jingling.
As you can see, we've had our eye on you for some time now, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
So the second best debut of this test match is going very well for Ollie Robinson. He has 25 overs, 6 maidens, 4 for 64. So that's impressive stuff. As Jimmy Anderson comes in to bowl to Tim Southey, I just want to request something of tweeters in a moment. So Southey plays inside that, very stiff-legged, goes through to the keeper. I recall watching Tim Southey's extraordinary debut innings where he came out as, I think, a 19-year-old in 2008 in New Zealand and just started swiping sixes, and you thought, oh, this is fun, he's going to be out for 19 in a minute. And he went on and got 77, which is still his highest score in Test cricket. I just wonder if Jimmy Anderson bowled any of the deliveries that Tim Southey hit for 6, as this ball is just tucked off half an inside edge and half the face of the bat. into the leg side, and Southey's off the mark with a single. So if any of the tweeters can help us in that blitz of sixes that I think he might have scored 10 sixes in that knock of 77, Tim Southey. Whether any of them were hit off Anderson, I don't think Broad was playing in 2008, but he might have been. But Anderson would be my best bet. New Zealand 20 for 8.
I was reading some of the stats about
as Anderson is in round the wicket to the left-handed Conway, who tucks it to the man at short mid-wicket, no run.
Yeah, Southey's record of hitting sixes is imperious, isn't it? I was reading he hits a six every 27 balls.
He's the Shahid Afridi of the of Australasia. Well, not Australasia as much as Australia and New Zealand. Yes, he's a six hitter. He doesn't much care for keeping the ball down because he thinks it's going over the fence. As Anderson's in again round the wicket and driving is Conway very pleasingly, but there's a man sweeping as you'd expect on the down the hill there at Lord's, and it's thrown into Bracey. He never looks at ease to me as a keeper. I like a keeper who's neat. Bracey's always seemed to be reaching for the ball or slightly arriving late or something, but that wasn't the greatest of throws, so we'll give him some leeway there. New Zealand 321 for 8.
Quite a few messages coming through on YouTube. Nick Reed says, what do you mean out-thought? New Zealand have played absolutely brainless cricket today. Doesn't take much out thinking. And I can tell which side of the fence he's sitting on. Joshua Letchford, here's hoping Devon carries his bat. Not bad for a number 3. I'd absolutely agree. I think it'd be wonderful to see him at the entire innings.
There's Anderson again, and this is left alone outside off stump by Southey, and we'll continue with your tweets.
Colin says, I agree with Nick that had bugger all to do with Robinson bowling. Regardless of where he bowled, he was going to go after him. I'm not sure that I'd necessarily buy into that. As a bowler, you bowl, you have a plan. He bowled, 4 ones, and then he decided to dig one in short. There's obviously been some kind of chat in the Kiwi dressing room over lunch about trying to move on with it. Yeah, probably not the wisest shot for Jameson to play, considering how good he is. I think that you've got to give some credit to the bowler.
I would agree with that. I'd say it's something of an unforced error. I mean, tennis, unforced errors, you only get them if you keep the ball in play. You don't get them if you try and play a drop shot and the ball ends in the net. As Conway is hitting this high ball from Robinson, not the cocktail, but the delivery into the leg side, and as he's done very often today, he gets a single off the first ball of the over, moves to 182.
And finally, Nick Reed says, I feel sorry for Conway. He's been let down by all of his teammates, apart from Latham and Nichols. And Nichols threw it away as well. Discipline is fast disappearing as a quality in the modern era. I think, look, he's done a brilliant job. If he goes to get 200 on debut at Lord's, what a phenomenal achievement. I agree that the rest of the lineup could have probably done slightly more to support him. Nichols is a good batsman. Latham's a quality batsman. It just, I think England have bowled well.
Robinson in, and this ball sort of goes off the pads, I think, of Tim Southey and sort of dribbles into the offside around the gully area, and there is no run. But I was questioning whether England had bowled well. A point Knackle made at around 11:30, because England had at that point had 3 wickets in 93 overs or something. They've now got 8 in 112, so I think it's fair to say England have bowled well since then. Of course, there's been some complicity on the part of the New Zealand batsmen with some contributory negligence. As this ball is defended into the leg side, and they're still going to grab a single as the man retreats from a very short mid-wicket, and Southey goes to 2.
To quantify my point, Gary, I was going to say exactly that, in the sense that, Test cricket, and why people love it, is the ebb and flow of it, right? So, New Zealand were massively on top for most of the first day. England have been cock-a-hoop to get Latham and Kane Williamson and Taylor for smallish totals. But then New Zealand have batted well, but England have had to bowl well to bowl maidens to create that pressure.
I think there's something in that, as this ball is defended by Conway in that strange way he has of almost waiting until the very last minute and jabbing a bat at it. But, it's working. Chris, where do you stand on whether this is New Zealand failing or England succeeding, particularly with regard to England's fight back today, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think credit where credit's due, and Conway has been magnificent on debut. And you look at the strike rate; it's not as if New Zealand are going along at a run of ball or more. You know, they're struggling to get to 0.5.
Robinson's in again. It's top of off stump from him, but the ball is nurdled into the offside by Conway, and they scoot through for a single. Well, New Zealand haven't changed their approach with the loss of the wicket of Kyle Jameson. They're looking very much to get on with it here, taking the quick single, looking to play an aggressive shot. Well, certainly a run-scoring shot from almost every ball here. It's not quite declaration batting yet, but I think New Zealand do want to be 400 at tea if they possibly can. And Tim Southey's a man who might be able to get them there. A quick 30 odd from him.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure, is he coming into bowl? Yes, he is. Sorry.
Yeah. It's Robinson to finish this, the 26th of his overs, with a ball on the middle stump, which is just defended. New Zealand 324 for 8.
Yeah, and just to pick up on what Jono was saying as well, the ebb and flow of Test match cricket. We're, a day and a half into a game. England were looking dead and buried. And now all of a sudden we have, I would say, a vital hour's play in front of us, where the game could run away from England, or indeed, they could put, New Zealand will go back feeling slightly chastened and disappointed. And I think that's the beauty of Test match cricket when it all comes to fruition like this.
It does, and I'm delighted that I've been furnished with the necessary information that Broad and Anderson were playing at 2008 Test, and Tim Southey hit sixes off both of them. As the aforementioned Anderson is in, and this is defended into the leg side by Devon Conway, who has Shikhar Dhawan one blow away from him in the charts, because he's on 183, and Shikhar Dhawan made 187 in that Test match that we brought to you under a previous guise of this programme. An extraordinary day. I think it was the day we did Comic Relief, what day that was. This ball is defended into the legs, into the offside. It dribbles through to Gully, and there is no run. We'll come to your tweets as and when they come through. Jono, I hope you're looking carefully at them.
I am, as always.
Of course. And we're seeing the dismissal of Jameson here from different angles, and the ball getting significantly higher from a slightly shorter length from Robinson. This ball is punched by Conway, but there's a man at wideish mid-off who can stop the single. And I think that shows that the error may be unforced, but at least it was induced by Ollie Robinson, perhaps bending his back a little more with a delivery that brought the wicket. So an error, but an error induced.
Indeed, and I think very cool.
As Anderson up to the wicket, round the wicket indeed, and meets the full face of Conway's bat. He just played that forward defensive under the nose very solidly.
I think this says, hello for the first time this Test, GC. Oh, how I've missed the Matrix Anderson jingle. With us, evening all, 4 hours in a Zoom meeting while sneakily watching the cricket on mute, and be very frustrated by inability to listen to gorilla wisdom and bollocks. Adds 100 jingles to myself. Great to actually hear you all.
Good old working from home. Chris, I'll bring you in after this delivery. Just moving the field around there. Gully has gone a little square. In fact, it's more backward point than Gully. Gone a little square for Conway. And this again has that strange sort of late crabby shot that Conway plays, but it always seems to hit the middle of the bat. There is no run. Chris?
Looking forward to the England innings. There's a lot of players who will want to be making their, a very strong case for getting on the plane to Australia. There's debutantes. There's a lot of inexperience in that top order. I think we're going to find it tough.
As Anderson is foolish to Conway, who just pushes the ball into the well-populated offside field. It's the end of the over. New Zealand are 324 for 8. And perhaps we have some more tweets.
We do. Dan Keevy responds to message Jez saying, don't you live in Oz, Jez? You organise a 4-hour meeting at night. Very good point. To be fair, though, knowing Jez, it may well have been Jez that organised it. In response to Saudi 77, Chris TB says 9 sixes in the Saudi 77, 5 off Panasar, 2 off Anderson, 2 off Broad.
It seems amazing. 2008, that seems a long time ago, and yet we're getting a replay of the same bowlers bowling to the same batsman, who will, if he's in for any length of time, be looking to hit them for 6. There's Ollie Robinson yet again. It's a long spell from the debutant, and it's hit by Saudi, but right off the base of the bat, and it goes to the man at mid-off, and there is no run. England have got the field pretty good on saving singles. I know there were some that were given up to mid-off and mid-on yesterday, not so many today, which is good work. I always find it unbelievable how often captains fail to get mid-on and mid-off in the right position to stop the single. But England have done that, certainly, after the first half hours played today. Southey bunts this down the line, and Stuart Broad dives, and that was a pretty naff effort, I thought, as the third man would say there. That was pretty village there from Broad. I know he's a tall man, but the ball was in the air for a long time, and I don't think it was shorter than I think he just failed to get to the ball.
Did he get a hand on it, or did it actually go for a boundary?
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Oh, well, that's pretty poor from Broad. The ball was in the air for a long time.
He
was at mid-off.
Lords as well.
Yeah, and he goes to his side, but he doesn't really travel with much conviction, and puts a bit of a half-hearted dive and spills what really wasn't much more than a regulation catch at professional standard. But Saudi got 2 from it, and now he's got another one by hitting the ball into the leg side. Am I being harsh there on Broad?
I think so. That went pretty quick.
Hey, it just looped, I thought.
Stop it, Chris. Behave yourself.
It's gone right off the toe of the bat, and it's looped in the air, and really...
It was a catchable height.
Oh, dear.
They'd expect to take that 99.99 times out of 100. He's a tall man, but no, not having that. No excuse.
It was catchable height.
Yeah, I'm not having that. Joe Root gives him something of an old-fashioned look as well. Well, a life for Saudi, and that's a full toss, and Devon Conway misses out on it, really, because Jimmy Anderson, who, had he been at mid-off instead of mid-on, I'm pretty sure would have caught that. He sprawls, stops it, and gets the ball back to the keeper in good time. Yeah, it was a strange sort of delivery from Ollie Robinson, who is a metronome on and around off stump. But that was a full toss, and that really was good fielding from Anderson. So if you're a 35-year-old opening bowler, you can still dive and intercept the ball. It was a knuckleball from Robinson, which is why perhaps it was a full toss. He's in again, top of off stump, and Saudi just drops the hands on this, and the man at second slip does the fielding. Why we've only got 2 slips with a bowler who's looking for a 5-fer and a number 10 in is something that captains these days seem to know better than I do. I would have 3 slips and a short leg, but what do I know?
I think Ollie Robinson has gained my begrudging respect here, begrudging purely because of the tweets that came to light yesterday. But he's got variation, he can swing it a bit, he's got accuracy, and he can...
Well, England are going looking for wickets here with funky fields, because they've now got a fair slip and a gap, and then a third slip who's standing extra close, and the ball just beat the outside edge of the bat and went through to the keeper. Tim Southey, for all of his occasional spectacular innings, and he used to come in well up the order in one-day cricket, he's a number 10. You know, what you do is you set a field for a number 10. What you don't do is start prattling about with funky fields. Pretty poor from Broad. Any Twitter reaction yet to Broad's...
No, Dan Keevy and Jez have been awfully nice to each other on Twitter. Farong talking about Matt Sinclair's 214 highest debut innings by a Kiwi.
By an Australian. This ball is pushed into the leg side and through for a single. You know why I'm saying that, Jono?
He was born in Australia, played for New Zealand. Yeah.
That's correct.
And wondering whether Conway will indeed get to the double 100 landmark. I think, look, regardless of it, whether I'm an England cricket fan or not, I think the way that he's played in such a composed manner in 4 and a tiny bit sessions, he absolutely deserves to get 200 on debut at Lords. to carry his bat would be, great achievement.
Anderson's into Southey, and Southey punches this to mid-on, where Stuart Broad gets down, makes the long barrier, and fields the ball, then looks at it and goes over to Jimmy, and says, "I'll catch one if it comes my way from you, Jimmy, I promise you." In fact, he's showing the ball to the umpire. The umpire's doing that thing with the rings. Ball won't go through.
Why you say that, Gaz?
What's that?
The umpire's doing that thing with his ring.
It's true.
Getting the ball into the ring.
It's an opportunity for me, and many listeners will have had a different number on the sweepstake for when I would complain about the overrate, but I've got right the way through to now without complaining about the overrate, because we were 10 overs short at lunch, and that's after the extra half hour yesterday. I'm going to call it what it is, and I know there's a jingle waiting, but I'm going to call it for what it is. It's cheating. That's what it is. If you select 4 seamers and then deliberately bowl well under the required rate, you are cheating. That, I'm afraid. It's kind of allowed cheating. It's cheating that comes without the opprobrium that's usually attached to that word, and without much of a penalty. But that's what it is. Let's call it what it is. But we've got a jingle because balls are being examined.
That was a dubious point, made with hyperbolic conviction by Gary.
I mean, what would it be if you say, look, lads, we're gonna pick 4 seamers, but we're only gonna bowl 80 overs instead of the required 90 in the 6 hours. So that's all right, isn't it? Everyone says, yeah, that's okay.
I'd call it frustrating rather than cheating.
I would call it cheating.
We're jingling.
Your white-haired whinger from Liverpool, and I'll trash everything I see.
As Anderson is just punched into the offside by Southey, and there's a very long single there which doesn't stop Southey hesitating, but they're through for it. 330 for 8.
Berate, drinks, breaks, footwear, ain't cool, all said with confidence and hyperbole. No, I'll never, ever, ever concede I'm wrong and talk over everybody all day. I'll be your white-haired whinger from Liverpool, and I'll dismiss what all the listeners say. No, that's wrong, actually, because what they need to do is...
Guilty as charged. As Anderson is in, and Conway covers up on about a 5th stump line, and the ball dribbles to Gully, and there is no run. Chris, what do you think of a point that I often make here? The field, apart from it being left and right-handed, doesn't appear to be much different for a man on 185 not out and a man on 6 not out, from a man who is an opening batsman and a man who is a number 10. Have you any thoughts on that? I think it's ridiculous, but there you go.
Well, yeah, I think you could, given his proclivity to try and hit the ball over the top.
This goes down the leg side, and Bracey behind the stumps fumbles it, but prevents the run, and it'll remain 330 for 8.
Yeah, given his proclivity to hit the ball over the top and to go for those 6s, and put some men on the fence, tempt him into it.
Yeah, put some men in the slips as well, and look for the edge. But yes, Southey is a unique batsman in that it's block or blast, and England should have a field that reflects that. As Conway gets another down the leg side, but I think he got a bit of bat on that. There was no chance for Bracey, and no, it's leg byes. Leg byes are doing very well for Conway. He'd be well over the double 100 in Norcross terms, because Dan Norcross, of course, credits leg byes to the batsman. And New Zealand go to 334, a Don Bradman score for 8. Your tweets.
We've got a fair bit of chat going on YouTube between Colin, Dara, who's joining us from Arizona, Khan Tanvir, Jamie York in New Jersey, in America, Nick Reed. I think just saying that he agrees with what we were talking about earlier when we said that it's not just the Kiwis necessarily playing bad shots. You've got to give credit to England. So, he's with us on that one as well.
This is slashed by Southey, but without any timing at all, and it's fielded at mid-off, and it is no run. I'm slightly distracted by the time. I think we'll have a change at the end of this over. Is that right, Knuckle? Yes, I'm getting the nod from our floral controller. He's not a fat controller, he's a floral controller, I think, in that shirt. I can't quite make it out. If you're on YouTube, you'll know Knuckle is wearing a very summery shirt for a summery day here in London. As he's in again, and that's an absolute beauty of a delivery. That's why you need 3 slips in, because that was setting off on off stump, and it just held up down the slope, and Saudi would have missed that with 2 bats. And again, there might be just a little bit of worry for England in that, because that seemed, I mean, that is unplayable. Excellent delivery from Robinson, and that makes this score already look quite good, because if the ball does that too often from the hands of Jameson and Saudi in particular, England will struggle to get up to 334 for sure.
Of course, if we do set a field specifically for
this ball is nudged by Saudi into the offside, goes to the man retreating from backward point, and they're through for a single. 335 for 8. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, quick point is that if we did, of course, set a field specifically for Southey and then another one for Conway, wouldn't that slow the over rate down even more as they?
Well, it's not much to put a short leg in and put an extra slip in for the man who's at number 10 on 7, as opposed to the man who's opening on 185. I'm not talking about a grand reset. So it's just being a little more attacking to the number 10. It used to be sort of perfectly orthodox, but not anymore, as this ball is nudged by Conway into the leg side, and there is no run. Conway slightly becalmed. I'm not sure how many he's scored since lunch, but he's not looking for the boundary, so he's not hitting the boundary, and I think that shows the success of England's defensive approach to his play. He has so far been able to pick up singles and especially leg byes to keep the scoreboard ticking over, but he doesn't look in any hurry to get to his 200, and why should he? As Robinson is in again, and this is just nudged for a single to the left hand of the man at this sort of hybrid third slip type position, and he walks a single. He goes to 186, so I think that's Shikha Dhawan next on the list at 187 of scores on debut, along with that pointless answer. If you play pointless and you're looking for a pointless answer to double hundreds on test debut, Brendan Kurapu is the man who I'm sure will get you a pointless answer. He made 201 for, I think, Sri Lanka. He was a wicketkeeper batsman. This is Robinson in again, and this ball is just defended by Saudi. It's the end of the over. It's the end of us three on commentary. Knuckle will cue in your next commentary group, and I'll be back in half an hour or so's time.
I think that's me, Gary. I can cue myself.
Cue! Barney McGrew.
Cuthbert, Dibble, and Grubb in this case being not Fred Titmus. So welcome to him, and obviously to the mighty Hendo. Now, I heard you there, Gary. You were talking about top scores, I think, for debutants. I was looking at debutants to carry their bat. Because we've got a really interesting situation here. We've got both the Ollie Robinson on 4 wickets, could be a 5 on debut, and obviously Conway, whatever he gets to score-wise, has the potential to carry his bat. Robinson is going to continue. He has 2 slips, and that's quite full and met and just pushed down the track, and they will get themselves a single there. Robinson, quite rightly, probably shied at the stumps, thought there was no run there, and has every right to think there probably shouldn't have been. 338 for 8. So we're in that extremely interesting position, Hendo. Do you know who the very first person to carry their bat in a test was? I'm sure it's the sort of thing you just know.
No, I don't. Do enlighten me. I might remember if you suddenly say, but nothing comes immediately to mind.
Well, it was before your time.
Jack Hobbs.
No, it wasn't. It was before that. It was Bernard Tancred in 1889 versus England.
Oh, Bernard.
He got Bernard 26 out of 47, so he didn't stay very long to carry his bat, but he did nonetheless carry his... But he didn't carry it very far, let's put it that way, but he did carry it regardless, which was extraordinary. And I'll tell you, there's only one New Zealander on the list that I could find of everybody. That's edged, taken, and Anderson has the wicket. And it's Southey that has had a little fence outside the off stump. It's gone through to Bracewell. 9 down, and that bat carrying could still be on the cards, though. Southey's gone.
Is that
well, cricket is back, the sun is out, and Tony still gets the name of wicketkeepers left.
What did he say? What did he say?
Bracewell. All the Bracewells play for New Zealand.
Yes, Bracey.
It's not about keepers. He just never gets them.
I do have a thing about keepers. Extraordinary. I wonder why you were shaking your head there at me. Now, with good justification, I rather think.
And we don't talk about Bracewells on this show after some lawyers' letters that we've received in the past. It's good bowling. As Gary mentioned earlier, Tim Southey in his memorable Test debut in 2008 hit a couple of sixes off Jimmy Anderson. It's a long time ago for the two of them still to be playing.
You are very quiet, Fred.
But he hit some off Stuart Broad as well.
Hello.
He hit a couple of sixes off Broad in that game. And Test cricketers aren't quite normally so long-lived. But I think... this has been a tremendous second day from England. It's been an absolutely outstanding performance. Not least because they haven't bowled any bad balls and they haven't given away any free runs, which has meant that even though Conway... What was Conway overnight?
136.
And what's he on now?
186, I think.
He is.
So he's had 50 runs in 2 hours, just over 2 hours.
Yeah.
For a man in touch and looking to score runs, that is extremely good bowling from England.
It was an excellent ball by Jimmy Anderson, by the way. It just right on the famous corridor, and it shifted and it shaped and moved away. And
great catch by Gary Wilson.
Bracey. Oh no, I think it's Niall O'Bracey behind the stumps. Just snaffled it quite magnificently. So good marks all round from an England perspective. We will jingle up the new batsman in a second.
That's Neil Webb. He's my boss. And when he takes 5 wickets in an over, was
Moida. Well, it was nearly Moida off his first ball because that went past his outside edge. And Bracey skipped across to his left to take it in those gloves of his very firmly. Again, beautiful shaping.
Tony, nobody has carried their bat on debut in the first innings, but I believe a couple of people have done it in the second innings of their debut.
Thank you, Fred. And as I look through all the batsmen listed who have ever carried their bat, I could only find one New Zealand. That was very recently. That was Tom Latham versus Sri Lanka, only, I think, 2019. So I was surprised. I mean, I did read through quite a long list fairly quickly, but no other New Zealand names popped out at me extraordinarily enough. Anderson in again, around the wicket, and this one has Wagner up onto his toes. He plays that rather nicely, actually. Guided away through mid-wicket. 2 England players will converge. One of them is Mark Wood, who gallops there first. And Wagner will get himself off the mark with a 2. Played that very nicely, didn't he, Hendo?
Yeah, and what we should remember, of course, is Neil Wagner scored a very good 50 in the winter. I'm trying to remember whether it was against the West Indies or Pakistan, but I seem to remember it was very quick as well. He took on 1 or 2 bowlers, a couple of top-edged sixes, and 1 or 2 shots better than that as well. I think he went on into his 60s, actually.
66 ago, that was at the Basin Reserve, and he's cut this one backward of point, and this might go all the way to the boundary. 2 men are going to chase it. They're not going. Oh, did they? No, they didn't. It was a super slide by Ollie Pope. He needs to be careful doing that on the boundary. He's got previous history of doing a slide not unlike that and putting himself out of cricket for an uncomfortably long period of time. But goodness me, that was no shot of a number 11, was it?
That was a quality shot. That really was a quality shot onto the back foot and splitting the field perfectly.
Balance, poise, angle of the bat, everything was nice. That one beat the outside edge, though. What a ball that was. What a ball that was. really sort of swung and moved off the pitch. Wagner, all ends up, was beaten, and I think you genuinely could say he wasn't quite good enough for him to get a bat on that one.
All the talks of 500 earlier in the day are looking wrong, basically.
9th, 10th wicket stands can be stubborn. Jimmy Anderson going to be in again, around the wicket. Left, big high leave by new man to the crease, Neil Wagner. He's already on 6, so he doesn't look like he's in a mood to hang about. And as Hendo was enthusing about, he just played the most gorgeous drive away into the offside to get 4 of those 6. It's the end of the over. It's 3:44 for 9.
You're a big man for stats, Tony. Wagner's another sodding left-hand bat. What's the record for the number of left-hand bats in an innings?
I have absolutely no idea, Fred. You're always a good one for finding a stat you know I won't know.
Wow.
There have been those famous games where a team of left-handed
one-legged players play a team of left-handed, one eyebrows.
One left-handed because they have to be left-handed because they've got no other arm. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're going to have a change of bowling.
Let's restrict it to Test cricket then.
And it's going to be this man.
What would make Broad walk? If his stumps were knocked down. What would make Broad walk? Caught 5 feet off the ground. What would make Broad walk? If he trod on his stumps. What would make Broad walk? If God was one of the arms. What would make Broad walk? Broad walk.
What Broad?
He was operating around the wicket from the nursery end, or the Tim Murter end, as I often like to call it. And it's left. It's left by the inimitable Russ Conway, who's done a magnificent job at the crease. Oh, well, since yesterday morning and all the way through. Sorry, Hendo.
Is there not a case for renaming the Compton and Edgewood stands, seeing as they're being rebuilt? I mean, really, Murter is a much more iconic name in the history of cricket, I would say, by now.
It might be pushing it a little bit to say that.
What?
But it's certainly his end of choice. There is no doubt about that. That one's really crashed away by Conway, but there's a man down there at deep backward point, and it will only net him I'm not even sure they took the single. Yes, they did take the single, and it will bring Neil Wagner back onto strike. Conway moves on to 187. We've got all sorts of things going on here. We've got the prospect of Conway carrying his bat. He's only 13 away from a double 100, and we have young Ollie Edward G. Robinson with the prospect of a fifer. 2 of those on debut, of course. Quite remarkable sequence of events.
I think it's unlikely now that Rob. Unless this is a really good last wicket stand, good last wicket stand, we're not likely to see Robinson again in this innings. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, even as I said it, I was sort of thinking that might be the case. There are 2 slips go down, as does Bracey, and that one was swung, looking to drive by Wagner, but he doesn't really get hold of it and just bumbles its way really away into the offside, and there is no run. 83 miles an hour from Stuart Broad, 118 and a half overs. We've had 3:45 for 9. New Zealand. So you can add that the 350 is on the horizon as well, just to add to landmarks that could all happen in the next half hour.
Well, people were talking about 500 quite rightly this morning. I mean, they got off to a very good first 45 minutes, New Zealand, and England have pulled it back incredibly well. I mean, Mark Wood was the impetus for that, really.
They have. There's Broad is in. This one is driven by Wagner, and it's going to drop. Was it gone all the distance?
It's gone all the way.
It's gone all the way. High over. Extra cover. What a shot that was. Stuart Broad has been hit for a 6. He's looking as grumpy as he might. And my word, Wagner just absolutely launched him. And it dropped probably 3 or 4 feet, I suppose, beyond that boundary. Really just, I suppose, to the left. Probably straighter, wasn't really extra cover, straighter.
I'll tell you
new Compton fan, I beg your pardon, isn't it?
An expert on Lords and its layout, and why have we got the boundaries in everywhere around this ground today? I don't understand it. As the reconstruction of the Compton and Edgewood, has that pushed everything back a little bit?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Well, then why have we got these short boundaries? I just don't understand it.
Well, I can. If you just hold on a second there, I wouldn't understand. This one is driven away by Wagner. That is through extra cover. That might also go. There's a man after it. No, it's going to be picked up short of the boundary by Jimmy Anderson, and they will take 3. The only thing I can think of is the pitch is bang centre. So it could be that. It could potentially be. Is it potentially just a COVID restriction? I mean, are they literally keeping a?
I don't think it's a COVID restriction.
It would seem
No,
unlikely, but
that.
So the only thing I can really think of is that the pitch is so central. But normally you're
it's
used
always
to it
gone
being
the
one
full
side
length.
or the other.
Maybe it's simply the health and safety that we have now with regards to running into barriers and whatever.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't look quite right to me.
Well, if you know different to us, do please tweet us and let us know, as Broad is in again around the wicket and Conway just drops the bat on that. Bracey bends to his left as both he and the 2 slips converge. And there's no run. It's the end of that over, and we will catch up on your social messages.
From Hendo.
Yeah, Mayank says, I hope Conway is able to carry his bat and get that coveted double century. Messi says, Tony Bishop won. Glenn Turner made the small matter of 223 not out when he carried his bat against the West Indies in 1972. Don't know whether that was the first innings or second innings. Presumably first innings. I mean, you don't get many double hundreds in a second innings, do you?
I did say as well that I did look. I did look at the list in a hurry, so he was probably buried somewhere in the middle when.
Yeah.
Judging by the timing there.
And I must say, Glenn Turner was a superb batsman to watch. He really was. Lovely bat.
Always batted with his collar up, didn't he? Wasn't that very much his style?
Yes. Very slight man, but a very good, technically good cricketer.
Nearly all collar.
You know, amongst some. Yeah, nearly all collar. I mean, in the same way as someone like Greg Chappell was, wasn't he? Anyway, change of bowling.
There is indeed.
Do you know Mark Wood? Yes, he is an England bowler, quite good and pretty quick. So just a normal guy. Of course, except for just one thing. What? He thinks that he's a horse. Right. What?
He's galloping in from the pavilion end. He's bowling to Wagner, who's driven him again away through extra cover. What a shot that was! Stand and deliver. Angles the bat, drives through extra. It's 4 more.
I mean, the confidence he must have taken from that innings in the winter is there for all to see, isn't it? I mean, he's playing some stunning shots, better than almost anyone, perhaps apart from Conway, in this New Zealand innings. Fabulous stuff.
That was indeed just superbly stylish. He played that quite magnificently. 20 runs this partnership from 12 balls as Wood is in again. He's around the wicket to the left-hander, who was looking to pull and I think ducked out of that really, and it's through to Bracey behind the stumps. There's no run. 358, so that 350 of course is up. But the stat we're really watching is Conway on 187, as Hendo pointed out.
I mean, it's set up for a really good test match now.
Oh, no,
it's set up for a really good test match now, isn't it? I think. You know, rather than if New Zealand had gone on to get 550, then it was a backs to the wall effort really from England, wasn't it? But now we've got 2 teams who could win this match.
Yep, it is beautifully poised. This one is attempted pull from Wagner, and he misses it, and it's through at some speed as well to Bracey, who took it nicely at shoulder height. And there is no run. 358 for 9. Wagner on 19.
There's a suggestion from Messi that there appeared to be a set of rails just outside the boundary. Is that to allow a sky camera to trundle along, so the boundary had to be shorter? Well, that's quite possible, I suppose.
No, I think that's for the that's for the sight screen.
It is quite different at that end of the ground now.
It's for the sight screen, I believe.
Is it?
The rails.
Could be.
Ah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they have those in Australia. They normally have a man sitting on the one in Sydney, at Sydney, and he goes along with it, sort of motorised.
A motorised sight screen.
A motorised sight screen with a bloke sitting on it, sitting on the end of it, motorising it. If that makes sense.
Not on top of it.
You know,
a great big set of
pressing the right
pedals
button.
Like
not right on the top of it, no, but on the.
This one is shorter. Wagner turns it nicely off his hip. It's down to long leg. They will take a single. Yes, they have. So there's 2 balls left for Conway to face from Mark Wood. Wood on 3 for his 69. Conway, of course, on 187.
Joe Root has 2 pairs of sunglasses on his cap, or possibly on 2 caps. I have to examine that a little bit closer.
2 caps Root.
Well, presumably maybe
following the
maybe they're
example
Mark
of Owen
Woods.
Morgan.
Neither of which are on his eyes.
Well, one pair may be his own. The other pair, I would imagine, is probably Mark Wood's.
Yeah.
Well, he might have eyes in the top of his head.
Could be. It could be a 359 for 9. Wood is going to be bowling to Conway. And Conway, that came at him really quickly. And Conway, again, I think, was starting to think about turning it down to leg, and then it realised it was just too far. And really sort of played it with a combination of bat and body, and was definitely discomforted by that ball. We'll have a closer look at it again now. Yeah, I know it played it squarely enough with his bat, but it wasn't the most comfortable of shots we've seen him play in all of his 187 runs. That won't be the best shot he'll remember.
He decided it's too easy with the full face of the bat. He's just going to play it to the edge.
He had him on his toe. Well, both feet were off the ground as well. You can normally tell when a quick bowler is making a batsman jump if he genuinely has jumped and left that much space between his toes and the pitch. One ball left from this Wood over. In he comes around the wicket again. Driven away down to backward point. He will keep the strike, will Conway. He'll probably be quite glad about that. It's the end of the over. 20 for Wagner, 188 for Conway, 360 for 9. And your messages will be read.
Indeed. Ulysses Wilberforce, the wonderful name that we have. If Southey actually applied himself, he'd be pretty good, wouldn't he? I'm not sure what FCS means, but anyway, he's been carried by that 50 on debut forever. He's hopelessly overrated in my opinion, but I'd put dollars on him to spook India in a few weeks if the ball even shifts a quarter of an inch off the pitch, let alone swing. The Indian lads could be struggling. What I feel about Tim Southey's batting is probably because he's been such a good bowler, he hasn't allowed his batting to develop as it might have done. He's got some absolutely scintillating shots. He's a naturally talented batsman, I think. And if he had concentrated a little bit more on that, he could have been a lot better. That said, he's still got, 5 Test 50?
Well,
yeah. So
you could say
that's not bad from man at number 10.
You could say the same of Stuart Broad in some respects.
Well, here is Stuart Broad, and that was wide of the off stump and quite low. And not a pretty ball at all, but Bracey very acrobatically dived to his left. Jack Russell was very generous yesterday, wasn't he, about Bracey being a fellow man?
Oh, was he?
Yes, he was.
I didn't see that.
He was saying some very nice things about the lad.
Yeah, he's done okay, hasn't he? I mean, he doesn't look the most natural of wicket keepers, but he's been quite tidy.
Yeah,
I'm not sure there is. I'm not sure there are many natural wicket keepers around these days in general terms.
The purist, no, not in the way that perhaps there used to be. As Broad is in, Conway plays this nicely with soft hands down to backward point. Will take a single. He obviously has a lot of faith in Wagner. He's not for a moment thinking about his 200 and keeping the strike. He's happy to let Neil Wagner take it, whether he gets there or not, whether he carries his bat or not. It's been a quite magnificent effort, and really the rest of the scores around him, with the exception I think of Henry Nicholls, just kind of a testament to just how good it's been, don't you think, Fred?
Yes, although we still haven't seen the ball deviate off the pitch tremendously or move in the air, so it's hard to say. Obviously you don't know until both teams have batted twice, but it looks like a good batting wicket, but at the moment it looks like New Zealand's score is at least slightly under par.
Well, that's brave words. We'll remember those, I'm sure, as in comes Broad bowling to Wagner, beats the outside edge, squared up, the ball moved away, was taken by Bracey above his shoulders, and you can mark that one up as a moral victory for Stuart Broad, because he had Wagner all over the place with that. Although just maybe pulled the bat inside of it.
Well, I think he did, but he got into a horrible position to play it in the first place, actually. He'd been completely turned around by it. And he may have just snatched it in a little bit later on. But that was a good comeback. Broad could do with a wicket, couldn't he?
Broad in again, yes he could. And this one again there's a shout from behind the stumps. It did take the pad, but it looked too high. And indeed, an encouraging round of applause by Captain Joe Root. But certainly no doing. Did it take? Oh, it just beat the outside edge.
It's been a long time. Something like 70 overs since he's taken a Test wicket, which is.
Yeah, I had a text from a friend of mine this morning saying Broady, is he finished? And I thought, no, that's a bit harsh. I mean, considering how well he was doing last summer, I think he'll come back. I think he's got a couple of years left in him, and I think he's got 19 county wickets this season.
They'll be desperately wanting this one as he comes around the wicket to Wagner. It's a way down leg, taken diving, tumbling by Breesy.
Farouk Engineer.
If Farouk Engineer tumbles like that now, then well, really,
well, he might be able to tumble down, but I doubt he'd tumble back up again.
No, it wouldn't be able. It wouldn't be like a Weeble.
Farouk's problem, I would imagine. 361 for 9. We are, as ever, as 9 wickets fall. The cameras tend to roam towards the opening batsmen, as they will obviously be thinking about their next jobs. And, we were looking there at Dominic Sibley, quite pensive, picking at his fingers and generally thinking about the job to come, I think. In comes Broad, clipped nicely away by Wagner, and in fact clipped backward a square for 4 more. Well played, Neil Wagner, beautiful shot. Played that delightfully, didn't he?
Yeah, he really did. I mean, when when the ball's actually anywhere close to him, he plays good shots. Anyway, Mayank says Gavaskar. We're talking about scoring double hundreds in second innings. He says Gavaskar scored a double hundred in the second innings versus West Indies in 1971. Also got pretty close. I think he got 190, didn't he, in that famous test against England at the Oval?
No, 200, 220 something.
Did he get 220?
Yep.
In the end, I thought, okay, twice he's done it. Andy Flower famously 199 not out versus South Africa in 2001. Both men also scored 100 in the first innings. Absolutely phenomenal.
Wow. Well, Mark Wood it is who will continue. He's bowling to Conway, who's on 189. Conway drives this away through the covers. That'll be 4 more. That'll edge him into the 190s.
There's not one boy for me. I must have 2 or 3. I need 4.
Well, you see, if these two keep going and they get towards 400, you'd still say that would be a pretty sterling effort from New Zealand. England will be desperate not to let this get away from them, having clawed it back.
Well, it's kind of got away from them a little bit, because what is this partnership worth? It must be worth well over 30 now.
That's a good question. I can tell you that in just a moment, as Wood is coming in around the wicket to Conway, who has to hurry, but one-handed guides this down to long leg. Will take a single. He will move. It's 28 off 4 overs, which is at something of a clip, no doubt. And it's Wagner who has played some gorgeous shots. Conway just carries on in the Conway way, which is seems incredibly unflappable.
That was a really good shot, actually. The 4 that he got with the drive in the previous delivery.
370 for 9. Wagner on 24 is on the strike. A left-hander has Wood coming again around the wicket to him. This one's, well, he doesn't really get hold of. He was looking to pull it away, I think, down to long leg, and it really just bumbles away. Breesy takes it, but they do take a single, and I think it was 32 off the partnership.
Okay.
32 off 4.1 overs.
Well, there you go. Wagner's got 24 of those. Leah says, with the way Wagner is hacking away at the other end, Conway better get those 12 runs in 2 or 3 boundaries this over, or get out trying. Another thing you didn't tell us, Tony, about Bernard Tancred and his 26 not out, is that he was actually Augustus Bernard Tancred. And I think we, that's one of the problems in English cricket, is we haven't had people named things like August Bernard.
Augustus. No, we haven't. This one is pulled again and is beaten this time now, is Conway. Beaten genuinely for pace there, I think, and he's looking around as though he's completely by surprise by that.
We had, not that long ago, a Malachi Bernhard.
Ooh, did he wear this just...
who, sorry?
Malachi Bernhard Loy.
Did we, by Jove?
Of course, yes. Yeah, Malloy, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, Malloy, yes.
Better known as Malloy.
Malloy, I've got it now. Yes.
Malachi Bernhard.
We did. I saw him play at Teddington, didn't Malloy? As this one is not particularly elegantly met. And guess what? where do you expect Mark Wood to be when he's put that effort ball in? Yes, of course, he's lying prostrate in the middle of the track, having flung himself to the floor. But there was no run, so it was all to no avail. But again, it was not the most pretty shot, really, was it? Or defensive shot from Conway.
No, I mean, I think sometimes with Wood, it actually arrives slower than you expect. It just sticks in the pitch a little bit. But because you're braced for it to be particularly quick, you're actually possibly trying to react to it too early.
That is very true. It's 370.149. Conway on 194. Wood is in.
Ooh.
Conway puts this uppishly.
And he's gone!
He's done it! He's done it with a 6, would you believe it? He's got to 200, he's done it with a 6, he's pulled it down to long leg, and he gets a huge hug. His colleagues are up on their feet on that balcony, and he has a double 100 on debut. What a performance.
Do you know, if I was Devon Conway, I'd retire right now. Not from this particular innings, but after this innings and after this test, I would retire. Wasn't it recently? Wasn't it Kyle Mayers did exactly the same for the West Indies in Bangladesh? Scored a double 100 on debut to win the game.
He did indeed. It's a 200 off 347 balls, and he's done it with a 6. Wood dropped it short. I think he was in control of that shot. I think his heart might have been in his mouth for a little bit of that as it travelled down.
Yeah, I think it would have been. I think it was a little bit of a top edge, wasn't it? And I think he would have looked round because there were 2 men out. He would have been a bit nervous, but it kind of bisected them, didn't it? So he was safe enough. But just for a moment, he would have thought, And well, he's much deserved. I mean, as much as anyone can ever deserve a double 100 in their first test, it's absolutely astonishing not. The way he's paced himself has just been so good. And he hasn't been bothered when wickets have fallen at the other end. He's just got on with his job. Tremendous stuff.
Okay, so we are going to see Joe Root, who is going to try and break this partnership, because England, having clawed their way back, very impressively too, are in danger of letting this pair, 10th wicket pair, just wrestle things back. Very much New Zealand's way. Conway has his 200. Root is in though to Wagner. And Wagner just dabs this away into the onside, and after all that excitement of a 6 for a double 100 on the debut, some normality is restored.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a pict, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root. Joe Root does introduce himself with his second ball, and much like the first, it's just pushed away by Wagner into the leg side, and there was no run. Wagner forward, a big shout for LBW. Both first slip and keeper go up. Not a flicker of interest from the umpire, not a flicker of concern from Wagner, and we move on.
He was playing the shot.
He was well outside, but it was a hell of a ball, wasn't it? It was a kind of sidearm sling.
Root again. This one though is flicked powerfully away by Wagner. There is a man down at the deep mid-wicket boundary. They will take 2. They're going to have to hurry.
I think he's run out.
Looks out. Root thinks he has his man. They are going to refer it upstairs. The umpires are. So as ever, Ollie Pope it was who flung in the throw, and I think that would have to be close. I think one of the key questions would be whether Root actually was the ball in his hand when he took the stumps off, or did he take them off? He missed the first
arm. He missed the first time.
I think he's in. Joe Root swung his arm back, missed the stumps, and then he swung it back the opposite direction, rather like a pendulum. The stumps are disturbed now. Oh no, I think he's just out. It's Richard Illingworth, third umpire. What do you reckon, Fred?
I think he's not over the line there, and the stumps are broken. So
it's very tight. It's Devon Conway as well. He's not going to carry his bat. He's not going to carry his bat.
Oh no!
What a way!
He's not going to join Glenn Turner and Tom Latham on the bat carrying stakes. What a shame if that's the case. No, that looks to me. Joe Root,
I think, just out.
In the spirit of fairness, Joe Root did his very best to give him a chance by missing with his first swing of his arm. As I say, if you were to imagine a pendulum swinging one way, Joe Root missed, Then it's swinging back, and he got it the second time, but I don't think that second time is enough to save Conway. He's gone.
It's very difficult. I mean, has to be out of the groove? Both parts of the bail have to be out of the groove?
Well, you can see the stump's out of alignment when he's not crossed the line yet.
Yes, you can, but on the basis that you can be bowled and still not be out, I think you have to have the bail out of the groove, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's the definition. The bails both have to come out the groove.
I've been out of the groove.
Or at least one bail. One bail has to come out of the groove.
Well, let's see. We're still waiting. Decision is pending.
It's out.
It's going to be
out.
And
they're walking off.
They are walking out, so they know what the decision is going to be. Out it is. He doesn't carry his bat. Frankly, I may be an Englishman, but it's a shame. We will have a little change, and we will let the next team talk you through what's been a highly eventful little session. Goodness.
Yeah, and I will just inform the new tweeter that probably the next tweet you want to read is about Farouk Engineer and a perpetual motion machine.
I think the only fitting jingle to play us off as we change over the commentary team and change over the innings is this: a huge standing ovation to you, Devon Philip Conway. 200 of 347 balls, 22 fours and 1 6. The 7th to make a double hundred on Test debut, the first in England, the first against England, and it has been absolutely magnificent. And with Neil Wagner, they added 40 runs between the two of them in about 5 overs or so, and Jono and Gary have got New Zealand from a good score to a probably slightly above par score.
Well, I think it depends a little on whether the pitch continues to play as it has done in the last couple of hours, where from being pretty flat this morning, it's started to really quicken up a bit and started to seam. And if you go on the evidence of the last hour or so, then 378 is well above par. If you go on the evidence of the first day or so, I mean, as you say, bowled well without any luck, but certainly wasn't doing as much as this. It's not such a good score, but it just shows the difficulties or the alchemy there is in pitch reading. I think you've just got to run in, bowl the ball in the right places, and seek to get batsmen out. Root almost gave that away, though, didn't he? I'm always amazed that cricketers practice so much, especially in the one-day game, and they'll all dive headfirst into advertising hoardings to save a pointless run at the end of, when sides are looking to declare and things like that. And yet, bowlers and sometimes even wicket keepers never seem to be in the right place to accept the ball coming in with the chance of a run out. To his credit, Jos Buttler certainly did in that World Cup final. Sorry about that, New Zealand fans. But Root all but cocked that up there because he was standing in the wrong place. And then he had a poor technique in attempting to knock the bail off the first time, and it was inches or fractions of an inch that he got it the second time. So he got away with one there, did Root. Of course, nobody would have said anything had he failed to execute the run out, because if you drop a catch or something, you get opprobrium attached to you. If you miss a run out, everybody just shrugs their shoulders. And it's an easier thing to do to stand behind the stumps, accept the ball and take a bail off, than it is to take a catch. But somehow it never seems seems to be treated the same.
This is all true, and it was millimetrical. Devon Conway out by very, very little in the course of effecting that run out. But Jono, it's not really the story. A couple of small things to mention. I'd say Neil Wagner with that 25 not out, the third highest score of the innings. Ollie Robinson 4 for on debut, denied by a dropped catch, a debut 5 for, which would have been the first since Toby Rowland-Jones for England, the first at Lords since Graham Onions. But it's all about Devon Conway.
Yeah, 100%. What a performance on debut. There will have been some nerves early for both him and Robinson and Bracey, but I'm disappointed for Robinson. I mean, look, forget Tweetgate or whatever you want to call it. I think, in terms of he's come out, he's apologised for that. He's trying to do his job as a cricketer, and I think it was unfortunate that Stuart Broad probably wanted to get a wicket for himself, and so thought, I'll be coming on if he doesn't get a five, and I can get myself on the in the wickets column. But of course, he's not dropped it on purpose. But it would have been great to see Robinson pick up a five from debut. Phenomenal performance from Devon Conway. Deserves every single plaudit that he's received so far, both on here and every other commentary platform around the world that's showing the game. Just brilliant performance.
Yeah, I can add to that. I just thought it was fantastic from Conway. Very much showing, I think, his South African roots with that strong bottom hand coming through. But his temperament was excellent. His ability to manage risk through the innings, to play with a tail that looks a lot better than England's tail, I'll tell you that for nothing. And really anchor an innings. It was the innings of a man who's played 100 Test matches, not the innings of a man in his first 2 days of Test cricket. So well played, him. Shall I give you some tweets?
Well, let me just do the scorecard quick.
Yeah.
If you're not too long. Tom Latham, the first to go yesterday, bowled by Ollie Robinson for 23 off 57, dragging on. Kane Williamson just after lunch to 86 for 2 that was, but he was again dragging on off James Anderson for 13. Ross Taylor fell not too long afterwards, LBW to Ollie Robinson for 14. There was then a very good partnership between Devon Conway and Henry Nicholls before Nicholls fell for 61 off 175 balls. That partnership worth 174. Henry Nicholls bounced out by Mark Wood. Then there was a collapse of startling proportions, really. 288 for 3 became 294 for 7, with BJ Watling caught at second slip off the bowling of Mark Wood. Good catch by Dominic Sibley, trying to flick to leg a leading edge. The curiously becalmed Colin de Grandhomme, LBW to Ollie Robinson for a 10-ball duck. Mitchell Santner pushing limply to James Anderson at short extra cover off the bowling of Mark Wood for none. Kyle Jameson caught by Zach Crawley, hooking a ball down the throat of deep square leg, who took a good catch for 9. Tim Southey poking at one outside off stump. First Test catch for James Bracey behind the stumps to give James Anderson a second wicket. At that point it was 338 for 9, but then Neil Wagner came in and played far better than a number 11 has any right to. Some lovely shots through the offside, a good pull shot and then a drive down the ground for 6. He ended with 25 not out off 21. The 25th of those was in the course of a very tight attempted to good throw in from the deep from Ollie Pope, and Joe Root at the second time of asking, taking off the bails to catch Devon Conway millimetres short, but not before he'd brought up a double ton on debut, the first debutant to make a double 100 in England or against England. 200 off 347 balls, 22 fours and 1 6. The bowling figures: James Anderson 28 overs, 7 maidens, 2 for 83. Stuart Broad 27 overs, 5 maidens, none for 79. Still hasn't taken a Test wicket for 71 overs, going back to the first innings in Sri Lanka. Ollie Robinson on debut, the standout, 28 overs, 6 maidens, 4 for 75. Mark Wood 27 overs, 8 maidens, 3 for 81. Joe Root 12.4 overs, 1 maiden, none for 38. There were 24 extras, 7 byes, 5 15 leg byes and 2 no balls, both by Ollie Robinson. So England will have to reply to 379 as the players wander out, and the openers who will be doing the business first up for England are these two.
He's got the drive of a champion from Surrey. His mustache is ugly, got a shot finally, and his name is Rory Bird. Official batting, he made huge runs, the rumour spread by word of mouth. This guy's really talented. Dominic Sibley.
Sibley back from a broken finger. Rory Burns has been in the runs this season for Surrey very consistently. One would imagine it'll be Tim Southey and Kyle Jameson to open up for New Zealand. Let's go through those tweets while England get themselves set.
Okay. J Grover 2307 says Farouk engineer tumbling would create a perpetual motion machine. His power must be harnessed for good. Messi Jez says happy to advise that Farouk Maneksha engineer is still going strong at the age of 83. His keeping wasn't what it was though. I think you see him around Old Trafford quite often as well. Neil Franklin says of the highest scorers on debut, interesting list, would be a bit harsh to say they underachieved after, but they didn't finish in the top end conventionally speaking. Well, Lawrence Rowe did in the style stakes, if not in the aggregate run stakes. Warren says congrats to Conway, great innings, now get out, which is pretty much what he did. Leah says Conway doing what Faf couldn't, getting to his maiden double ton with a 6, well done the lad. And Steve Kellett says another bloody last wicket stand. Right, I'm saying England will be 3 down before tea. My dad goes one better and reckons it will be 4 down and hashtags it doom.
Well,
Brian Barish says hello everyone. Just back from getting my face scraped off at the dentist, saw that Conway was run out. Was it a silly one or a good defensive play? We've discussed that at some length, so you will have heard that. And we're about to make a start.
We are indeed in the ball in the very capable hands of Tim Southey, 302 Test wickets at 28.7, and has been one of the very best bowlers in the World Test Championship.
It's only a whimsical notion.
He starts right arm over the wicket from the pavilion end to the left-handed Rory Burns. Past umpire Michael Goffey goes. A little bit of swing into the left-hander, left alone. Through to BJ Watling. There is no run. We've got, what do we have? It's 2:54 p.m. UK time here, so we've got another 45 minutes or so. So there's, it's not a tricky little session, you would say. I'm Knuckle Mpande, if you're just joining us here on Gorilla Cricket, taking you through the start of England's reply to New Zealand's 378. A full delivery, a swinging delivery, which dies on its way through to BJ Watling, left alone by Rory Burns. There is no run. The voices you've been hearing are Gary Naylor, who'll be reading your social media messages, and John O'Gordon, your summariser. It's almost too early for strategies, Jono. You kind of just have to bat.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's that old adage, isn't it? You can't tell what a pitch is really doing until both sides are batted on it. We're just going to have to see. I think England's top order have got a lot of work to do and probably still some things to prove. Getting through to tea without losing a wicket would be a great result.
Short, Rory Burns likes it there and pulls it away powerfully past square leg. Rory Burns and England off the mark with a very nicely played 4 runs through mid-wicket.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
County watchers such as Gary will have been very familiar with Rory Burns this season. And Gary, if you wanted a manual of where not to bowl to Rory Burns, that was about it.
It is. He enjoys the horizontal bat and he enjoys getting that bottom hand through. It's an esoteric technique of his, but it works.
Southey in foolish delivery, left alone by Burns. As much on length, I think, as line. Through to the keeper, there is no run. Yes, Rory Burns has got himself into the England team by being the most consistent opener in English county cricket and has been very good this season. I think 5 or 6 50-plus scores and 100 for Surrey this season. Yes, on a flat oval pitch, but still the runs have got to be scored. Dominic Sibley's only played a couple of county championship games due to a broken finger, but starting to look slightly more at home in Test cricket. I'd say these are probably easier conditions than they've had to face in England for a while. 3 slips and a gully in as this is a full delivery into Burns, which he blocks up to mid-off. There is no run. It's Ross Taylor, safe hands at first slip. Tom Latham at second. Colin de Grandhomme at third.
Question on I think the new stands by the media centre look absolutely wonderful at Lord's. What do you guys think?
I like the Warner stand as well. I like the roof on the new Warner stand. But yeah, the Compton and Edrich look fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of controversy about the nursery end development. It's been going on for at least 20 years, I think, with various plans proposed and committee members resigning and so on, but I think they've got it right.
Southey in. This one doesn't swing, and Burns, I think, was probably playing for a little bit of swing, and it dribbles out off the inside part of the bat to square leg. There is no run. Decent first over for England. They are 4 for no loss, trailing by 374 after New Zealand made 378 with Devon Conway 200 run out coming back for the second. Narrowly missing out on carrying his bat, but it was a magnificent innings.
Messi Jazz tweets in saying, I know stats don't predict the future, but, and then quotes CricViz saying that Rory Burns has a false shot percentage of 18% in tests. Since he made his debut in 2018, only West Indies' John Campbell has placed 1,000 plus balls as an opener and registered more. And Jay Grover goes for a much more personal note, saying, sounds that you've been listening to or watching Guerrilla Cricket far too long, number 246. Mint! Knuckles wearing my favourite shirt. I really need to get out more. You're not going to get any disagreement from me on that, Jay.
You can get out more and listen to us, of course. It is going to be the gigantic Kyle Jameson from the nursery end.
And that's the story of how Kyle Jameson became a man.
He's been breathing fire and hurling down thunderbolts throughout his Test career. That was a gentle zephyr outside off stump, left alone through to the keeper. There is no run. One of the friendlier deliveries that Dominic Sibley will face.
I shout to Ulysses Wilberforce, 1:56 a.m. here in New Zealand, still awake and loving it. Brilliant stuff, lads. Well, thanks very much, Ulysses Wilberforce. Your support is welcome.
Thank you for your listenership, and congratulations on your magnificent name. This is left alone outside off stump, a little bit tighter to off stump from Jameson. Hasn't played at Lords, of course, before, bowling from the nursery end, so looking to the slope is sort of taking the ball away from the right-hander into the left-hander. Fair to say, Jono, those were kind of pathfinding looseners.
I do hope Ulysses Wilberforce has his birthday in a couple of weeks' time or so, on the 16th of June, of course.
3 slips and a gully as well for Jameson. Again, very friendly outside off stump. Nothing Sibley had to do about that at all. Through to the keeper, there is no run, no threat at all from Jameson thus far.
I think when you haven't played at Lords before, certainly as a bowler, I think with the slope, I think once you take off, people say, I've certainly never been and bowled there, but people say once you take off, you kind of become a little bit disorientated. So it might take him a little while to settle in, but I think once he does find his line, I mean, we've seen how dangerous he's been in his young Test career so far. I think he average of 13, I think someone said with the ball earlier on, so he's certainly going to be a handful.
In comes Jameson. Measured run up. A little bit of bounce this time. Sibley leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no run. I think certainly early on, you have to make Dominic Sibley play as much as possible, because he is not going to be bothered at all by leaving for many, many hours outside off stump.
Yeah, he's certainly very watchful, isn't he? Whereas I think Burns, it's interesting, Gary says about those 18% of ball shots, almost strikes me as if he wants to, feel bat on ball more. He's quite naturally quite defensive, other than typical left-handers if it is short, but seems to want to put bat on ball a bit more than Sibley.
In comes Jameson, right arm over the wicket past umpire Kettleborough again, far too wide of off stump for that to be any trouble at all to Dom Sibley. Good carry, as you'd expect from that height, but this has not been a very threatening over thus far.
It might be worth mentioning, particularly to New Zealand listeners, that the slope at Lords really is a slope. There are some things you hear about and they're more apocryphal, or they're more honoured in a breach than they are in reality. But when you go to Lords, you sometimes wonder how anybody thought of putting a cricket ground there, because it is on a slope.
8 feet in vertical height from one side to the other, as Jameson is in a better delivery, fuller, a little bit of swing, left alone through to Sibley. An unthreatening maiden from Kyle Jameson to start England 4 for none.
We have a tweet from Vector Victoria, with whom I often agree, but I'm going to disagree on this one. She says, the new stands at Lords frankly couldn't have been any worse than the previous ones, which were dire, but it annoys me that the left stand isn't fully enclosed like the right-hand one is. Obviously it's because they're different sizes, but it still looks odd. I'll disagree, because I quite like oddness at sports stadiums. What I don't like is uniformity, these great bowls like Wembley and the Emirates, where no matter where you look, all you get is the same picture. So I'm all for higgledy-piggledy and things that don't really add up.
I agree.
You can leave your columns for Berlin, if you ask me.
Southey in. No, that's a terrible lead from Rory Burns. He's just been saved by the fact that the ball is going over the top of the stumps. He's left a ball that swung back into him, pitched on off stump, hit him in front of the middle. Michael Goff says no because it is too high. But my word, that is a misjudged leave on line.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just to go back to what I was saying about the false shots and whatever. I wonder whether, I mean, I'm right-handed, but I wonder whether left-handers feel like they have to try and play the ball a little bit more because they will face a lot more right armers, and they would probably more naturally be able to leave left arm over the wicket bowler.
Well, particularly bowlers bowling across, bowling from over the wicket. It's a little bit different when you're bowling from round the wicket, as a lot of right arms do to left-handers. You can see just on the replay that ball was going over the top of the stumps, and everyone knew it. This is a full delivery flung outside off stump, but Burns doesn't drive at it, and there is no run. I say a terrible leave. Maybe he thought it was going over the top of the stumps. They are trying to leave on length, as we saw Conway do, but you've got to be careful.
It did come back up the hill as well. I mean, a ball that pitches on off stump from the pavilion end, if you're a left-hander, leaving it, you're usually okay. But that came back up the slope from Southey. It's a bloody good ball.
He's a fine bowler.
Shades of Glenn McGrath. In comes Southey. Full swinging delivery. Burns just blocks back to the bowler. There is no run. I do think, though, on the false shot percentage, I would love to see. I'd love to be able to play around with that data. I would imagine most openers in England and top order batters have a pretty high false shot percentage over the last few years. We've seen how dominant the ball, and particularly the seamers, have been in the last few years, and how quickly test matches have gone. You have to be able to put up with the fact that you're going to play and miss a lot as a test opener. 3 slips in the gully. Backward point, mid on, long leg. Burns drives closed face of the bat, and he might just be able to get a single into the onside. No, Neil Wagner down on the ball quickly enough at long on, or mid on rather. There is no run.
Yeah, Graham Smith made a lot of runs on this ground, and he played a fair few false shots at the top of the innings as well. So, stats, yeah.
Well, I mean, it is that is higher, I'm sure, than most than many openers. I would like to see it in more context, but I think it is perhaps indicative of Rory Burns' style. Not predictive, but indicative.
Yeah.
Southey is in the St John's Wood breeze ruffling his hair, which has been pretty much the same ever since he made his Test debut in 2008. Full delivery driven back to the bowler. There is no run. It's not really a hairstyle. It's just hair. It's just
One of those get up and go looks, isn't it? It's not really a
short back and sides and a little bit of a quiff, maybe a tiny bit of gel. That was an off cutter from Tim Southey, just running his fingers across the ball. Very clever bowler, Tim Southey. He's been around for a long time. He and Bolt and Jameson and Wagner are going to be a handful for India in the World Test Championship final. Bolt not with the squad as yet, as he got a little bit of time off after the IPL. Last ball of the over from Southey, which angles across Burns. He plays it well, guides it out to backward point, and there is no run. 2 maidens in a row. This one are better than Jameson's the over before. England 4 for none.
Farong says, quote of the day thus far by Tony Bishop. Frankly, I may be an Englishman. Could be a new t-shirt design for this one. Shower screen probably not a good idea.
He may be an Englishman.
Indeed, I'm off to see some Gilbert and Sullivan at I think at St Albans Open Air Theatre next week. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to it.
What are you saying?
I think it's Iolanthe, but I'm not sure. I know I ought to be, but it's always quite fun when you're doing these reviews to sit down, the curtain opens and think, oh, this is what I'm seeing now.
Sibley gets one straight. That's a good delivery from Kyle Jameson. I think Sibley is gone for a duck. Sibley trying to work to leg it, just nibbled from Jameson down the slope away from the right-hander. A much better delivery after that very unthreatening maiden. Sibley's talking with Rory Burns as to whether to review it, and he is at the last possible second going to review it. He's hoping that this is doing too much and missing off stump. I'm not quite sure whether it is, but that's a very good delivery from Kyle Jameson.
It's saying they take a look over. I'm not pretending to be obviously correct. It's not like I predicted it, but he was going to be a handful. I can't see this as being. It's too full to be going over. You'd think.
Well, I don't think it's going over, but I think it might be doing too much and missing off stump. It has moved significantly off the seam, and it's hit him on the back leg, which is further towards the offside than the front. It was a cracking delivery from Jameson. Can see why Sibley was trying to play it to mid-on, because it looked like it was angling into middle stump. What do you think, Gary?
I think it's just shaving the off stump. I think he's been done here.
It's hitting. It's umpire's call on impact, and just shaving the off stump. Gary, you've called it correctly. It was given out on field by umpire Richard Kettleborough, and Dominic Sibley has been done by a very good bit of new ball bowling, using the slope at Lords to his advantage. It took him an over to figure it out, but not much longer, and that average of 13 has just taken another step down towards the absurd. Dom Sibley gone for a duck. England 4 for 1.
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle.
That's a fantastic bit of bowling to an opening batter.
He is an absolute class act, this Jameson. He really is. I know it's a cliche to say he bowls like Joel Garner because they're both 6'8", but he does have Garner's box of tricks in his hand, in that he doesn't seem to take much out of himself when he's bowling. He can hit the splice, he can bowl full and challenge you, he can bowl length and challenge you. He really is the real deal. I just want to read a quick tweet from Anandia, our very own. It says, exactly 25 years ago, an elegant left-hander made a century on debut at Lords against England and went on to have an amazing career. Will another follow in his footsteps today? Well, that other one went one better in Devon Conway. But exactly 25 years ago, I was sitting in the grandstand at Lords watching Saurav Ganguly make that century, and I think Rahul Dravid got 96 as well, also on debut. But it was a very fine innings, a very fine test match. Dickie Baird, tears in eyes, waving his hanky.
Yes, the for some time overshadowed Rahul Dravid. Anyway, this brings to the crease a man who has promised much in his England career thus far and delivered a fair bit. A very good double 100 against Pakistan a few years ago, but had a tough winter, and his start to the summer isn't going to get any easier.
Zach Crawley was a cricket player, a damn good cricket player. But he was moved from the middle order to open the batting. Now, trapped in the English professional cricket circuit, Zach Crawley must fight to survive.
Yes, he does, and that one comes up the hill. A little bit of movement into the right hand. Jameson landing the ball on the seam and getting it to deck both ways. I mean, you can see why Sibley was trying to play that through the onside, Jono.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, where he pitched, he's done a fair bit off the seam. I think he'll be disappointed. I think the England players, the team, the management will be disappointed that Richard Kettleborough's given that out, considering it's so tight. You can see there from Sibley's reaction, it's arguably too tight to give. But umpires can afford to be a bit brave with their decision making now.
Jameson into Zach Crawley, plenty of height out there, 6'8" to 6'5", and 6'5", plays inside the line, curtain railing the ball, the bat inside the line of the ball, in the manner of England's new batting coach, 6'4", Marcus Trescothick. Through to the keeper, there is no run.
I'll tell you, if the umpire's not given a ball out that's pitched off and held its line like that, I'm going to be pretty upset as a bowler. That was a superb delivery.
100%. I think that if it's hitting the stumps, it's a good decision from the umpire. I don't think it happens often enough.
But by the way, Carl Jameson has just overstepped, so that is a no ball. All no balls in senior international cricket being caught by the third umpire, so none of them get missed, a la David Shepherd and Sakalain Mushtaq all those years ago. Next ball through to the keeper, there is no run. Steve Buckner, I think it was, sorry, rather than Sakalain Mushtaq at Old Trafford all those years ago.
Yeah, Jono, you were saying that you're happy if the umpire gives it out when a ball's hitting. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I think they need to be braver. I think that DRS allows them to be a bit more brave these days, but it can't be a bad decision if it's hitting any part of the stumps.
I agree.
Good to see umpires being, braver than they would have been previously.
There's DRS empowers umpires to do that, and because there's much more evidence that more balls are going to hit the stumps. This is a foolish delivery from Jameson, left alone by Crawley through to the keeper. There is no run. But you can see not just the height and the pace of the bounce, but the skill of the man in those first 2 deliveries of this over. There's always a little bit of variance about which way the ball seems, but the fact is he's landing the ball on the seam perfectly and in the right place, that whether it goes in or out, it's a good delivery.
Well, Glenn McGrath used to talk about getting a little bit of reverse rotation on the ball as your fingers go down the back of it, and I think he gets that. He's obviously got long fingers, being such a tall man, and I think there was a bit of analysis in New Zealand last year on it.
This is a very good delivery again, very similar to the one that got Sibley. Crawley manages to get some bat on it, doesn't get squared up quite as much, and squirts this down past backward point and gets off the mark with 2 runs. Yeah, that backwards rotation helps keep the seam upright, and as we saw on that delivery, the seam is upright, just angling towards the slips to move the ball away from the right-hander, but it means that the seam is more likely to impact with the surface, and then it'll move either way. As you say, that little wrist flick that Glenn McGrath had, and I think that we'll see Jasprit Bumrah exercising or employing later this year. We are in a golden age of fast bowling right now. This is left alone through to the keeper. There is no run. A fabulous over from Kyle Jameson. The first was a maid and the second went for 3, but the second was absolutely superb. 1 for 3 he is off his 2 overs. After 4, England 7 for 1, and now they know they are in a battle. We should have had change, actually, I think. In fact, we'll do that change now. Thank you to Gary and to Jono, and I'll be moving over to summarise for Nigel Hendo Henderson, and not Fred Titmus will be reading your social media messages.
Yes, I will. Or some of them anyway.
Fantastic start by Kyle Jameson.
Yeah. Right, I'm back. I was having a problem. For some reason, the host had shut me out of all communication situations. But yeah, you're very quiet again, Fred. Get closer to your mic. Oh no, what's happened here? As Southey starts a new over, it looks like he was bowling the away swinger to the left-hander, and well, Burns came forward slightly. It seemed to get caught up between bat and pad, and a beautiful seam position there. It did in fact come down, shoot down off the bat onto the inside of the back foot. So that stopped it from going onto the stump. So good work from Burns for having that second line of defence.
We've already seen Rory Burns. He got bowled defending the ball into the wicket, which hit his elbow and bounced back down onto the stumps.
Yep, this time an in-swinger starts a little bit too wide of the off-stump, and Burns is able to leave that quite comfortably. Sibley a little bit unlucky, I thought. I mean, that was a decision that could quite easily have gone either way. There was a little bit of, you did see a little bit of stump, and you thought to yourself, the ball is moving away. But for him, it hadn't moved away enough quite, and it was umpire's call on both. That said, the ball started out around about middle and off, and he was trying to flick it away through mid-wicket because of the position of his bat, really, the way it's turned in so far. That's hit Burns on the pad. There's a big appeal this time. Goff, the umpire, says no. He was absolutely right with the previous appeal in the previous
outside
over.
leg.
I think it was outside leg. I have to say that when he bowled that delivery to Burns and it hit him on the pad, padding up, I thought he was gone for all money. But brilliant decision by Michael Goff, who figured that even though it had hit the bat leg, it was going up and over the stump. So you've got to say good judgment really from Burns. This one does swing into him, probably going down the leg side, I would say. I'm not sure that it did pitch outside leg. Let's have a look. Ooh, no, it's in line, and it's actually swung back, and it would have been umpire's call, so that's very close as well. Could quite easily have given that, but this time Burns gets the luck that wasn't going Sibley's way. It's into him again, once more pushing up to mid-on, and this is a very good little opening spell from Southey and Jameson.
Yeah, with that, Sibley does score a lot of his runs through the leg side, particularly early on, and he was trying to play it through sort of wideish mid-on. The ball was angling into him, and you could see why he thought it was going to go straight onto kind of middle stump, and then it moved away late and considerably. It was a fantastic bit of bowling.
Yeah, but whoever was on before said he was entitled to be playing that on the leg side. Bear in mind, it was pitching on the outside of off stump, so I'm not sure that he was entitled to.
Left alone by Burns outside the off stump. That was the one that was going across him more than anything. Looks like the breeze is getting up a little bit. Certainly is in this part of London. Looks like there's a little ruffling of the flannels and shirts amongst the New Zealand team, so maybe that will help their swing. I think Burns is more fortunate in the sense that Tim Southey in particular is predominantly an away swing bowler to the right-hander, in swing bowler to the left-hander. He does have the one that goes the other way or goes straight on, but predominantly he's an in-swing bowler, and it is more difficult to play away swing. This one is flicked through mid-wicket by Burns. He will get, well, just the one. They've got two men out, which seems ultra defensive. It's not as if Southey is looking to bowl too many short deliveries. Anyway, that is the end of the over, and Burns will get a first chance to face Kyle Jameson. Yes, tweets.
We've been joined on YouTube by a few people. Dara Azizi doesn't think much of the England openers, nor does Esmulga Prasad, who thinks that Gooch signed off too early, and Treskovic, and that Jack Leach is better than both of them. And the usual suspects, Steve Kellett, our man in Kuala Lumpur, says, here we go, the collapse is on, and a long D word.
Well, I did see Steve Kellett suggesting earlier that he thought England would be 3 down by tea, and then did he say that his dad reckoned it would be 4 down? Well, they're 1 down at the moment. They are 8 for 1 reply to New Zealand's 300 and quite a few. I can't remember offhand what it was.
378.
380 odd. 378, I think it was. Jameson 1 for 3. He's got his first Test wicket in England, and he's coming in to Burns. Down the leg side, he tries to flick it on his way. Doesn't make contact. Taken by B.J. Watling behind the stumps.
Oh no,
Jeff
you're
Humpage.
not Tony, are you? No.
Oh no, well yes, exactly. Yes,
random wicket-keeper.
Jack Richards, perhaps. Name your favourite wicketkeeper that Tony will get wrong. Mike Garnham.
Well, I think of the 3 Ireland wicketkeepers who is got wrong at various points, none of them are now playing for Ireland because Gary Wilson and Niall O'Brien are both retired, and Stuart Pointer's chosen to play for Durham.
Oh, we won't be able to take him to Dublin. He'll be all over the place, won't he? This is an away swinger to the left-hander. But he allows it to go past quite comfortably outside the off stump.
We're just past the 3rd anniversary of Gorilla's trip to Dublin to cover the inaugural Test match between Ireland and Pakistan in May 2018, and my phone kept reminding me of pictures taken 3 years ago, and what a great trip that was. I mean, it could hardly have gone better.
It was, and then of course we were. Well, they made a good game of it, didn't they? I mean, Kevin O'Brien's 100. Fantastic. Jameson in again, all full and loopy swing, but Burns waits for it, and he's got the width to drive that all the way along the ground through extra cover, and it brings him his first boundary.
2 + 2 is on man.
It's a good shot from Burns. It would be very easy to see that full and swinging away from you and really throw your hands at it, but he waited for it well and made sure that he just got the middle of the bat to the ball and kept his shape.
Yes, and also, I mean, alternatively, he could have thought to himself, well, actually, it's early, and I don't want to lose another wicket, and I won't play at that. But he did, and he played it really well. As you say, more controlled than rather than going at it too hard. Jameson in again from the nursery end, gets that one to swing away again from the left-hander. In the winter, watching those New Zealand Test matches late at night and early into the morning, Jameson really got it to go against the West Indies. I remember him bowling, I think it was, I've forgotten the name of the... Roston Chase. He got him with a LBW, I think it was.
Staggering
it just
delivery.
Went absolutely miles. And poor old Roston had only lasted the 1 ball. Didn't see it coming at all. Brilliant. And averaging still 13. I mean, one presumes that average will get higher as time goes by. Jameson in again, brings it back into... Burns, but he finds the gap on the onside. 2 men in pursuit. One more keenly than the other. That Mitchell Santner, Colin de Grandhomme, maybe weighed down by his extra hair now. Wasn't really too optimistic about cashing that one down the hill, but they pick up another 2.
I think with Colin de Grandhomme, it depends which way the wind's blowing. If the wind is behind him, the mullet will push him along. If he's running into the wind, then it acts as a sort of parachute.
Do you think he's beginning to look a little bit like old-style Eric Cantona? Can anyone see that? I mean, I know that Eric Cantona has now pretty much lost his hair, but in the old days, Jameson in again, another big in-swinger, but it's once more put through that gap. Colin de Grandhomme's hat comes flying off. He's not going to get that. He gives up the ghost. Santner can't make it either, and it's 4 runs to Burns. And with that slope, there's not a lot of margin for error when you're bowling in swingers to a left-hander for Kyle Jameson. He's discovered that in that over, and England have moved on to 18 for 1.
Colin de Grandhomme, I said earlier, he looks like an extra from Braveheart. That was when he had the white zinc cream all over him. But I've not watched Game of Thrones, but I imagine he could be standing behind one of the villains in Game of Thrones, looking distinctly menacing. Whereas Kyle Jameson, on the other hand, looks like a Norse god. On this Thor's Day in London.
He just needs a
very
big.
good.
He
I was
just
going to
needs a
say,
beard and a hammer.
probably is he not as Norse godlike as Tremlett, Chris Tremlett? I mean, they're very similar builds, I would say. Quite
sort
muscular,
of
but
V from the
lined.
waist up and out.
Yeah, I hate people like that.
Sort of have like a swimmer's build with gigantic shoulders, and kind of like an upturned triangle. Or
Michael
sorry,
Reed,
triangle.
Gone, Phelps, yes. In comes Southey, bowling to Zach Crawley for the first time. A little bit of a way swing, nothing too significant, and the Kent batsman allows that to pass through to the keeper. Burns has moved swiftly on to 15. Crawley has a couple to his name. Yes, Fred?
Messi Jez says, I have to concede, whatever DRS may prove about the competence of various umpires, it does succeed in proving beyond doubt that I would be a rubbish umpire.
Well, join the club, Messi. I mean, talking of Tony and his recognition of wicketkeepers, you should see him with a white coat on. We should like to see him with a white coat on, taken away. But that's another story. 18 for 1, dug out by Crawley, and then inspecting the bottom of the bat where it mainly came off.
There are pictures on the internet of Hendo wearing a white coat. In fact, my white umpire's coat, which is
and a white cap, I believe.
I think it was so generously proportioned that it would be roomy on Gary. It's a big old coat.
All you could see was the coat. Apparently there was a person inside, but
you looked like a cross between a scarecrow and a sight screen.
Something like that. Here comes Southey again into his 4th over. He bowls to Crawley. Crawley flicks that away off leg stump straight to Santner, I think it was, at mid-wicket. And there is no run.
It's very interesting to see Wagner bowling to Zach Crawley, because that chest is a big target for Neil Wagner to try and hit. Not always easy.
I just love Wagner the batsman now. To me, he's a glorious thing.
That back
played
foot,
2 of the best shots off the back foot through the covers that you will ever see.
That back foot punch
really was. Talking a lot.
Sorry, I was going to say, that back foot punch. It was like Stuart. It was kind of like Stuart Broad way back when.
When he was good. Oh, he aims a drive at a big away swinger, and he's got an edge through. Southey has struck. Crawley has lost concentration far too early in his innings. England may not be 3 down, they may not be 4 down, but they are 2 down.
I'm not going to attach too much blame to Dom Sibley for his dismissal, but that was very much an unforced error from Zach Crawley. It was just a full wide delivery that he threw his hands at. His weight was no way into the shot. Whether it was the right shot to be playing, he didn't play it well either, and the most regulation of catches for BJ Watling.
It wasn't the right shot to play.
Absolutely.
He played it badly.
It wasn't the right shot to It was a bad shot. It was badly executed. And it was well bowled, really. No, indeed.
That is poor. I don't think any of the New Zealand batsmen, when England were bowling well earlier today, gave their wickets away in that fashion. Maybe you could say Nichols contributed to his own demise, but nobody did anything quite as bad as that. That's really poor. Neil Franklin says Worcester 131 for 9 at New Road, which takes some doing generally. Steve Kellett, well, this hasn't aged well. He says we now have what I call an England stand, meaning there are no red W's in the Cricinfo recent section. Well, there are now. So de Grandhomme would be suited by a headwind, asks Farong. Annie Chave gets in touch, says, hello all, first time heading up on the train to London since I was with you in February last year, feels like forever, lovely listening to you all doing wonderful Test cricket again. And Messengers has tweeted a picture of Hendo looking like the angel of the north in a giant white tarpaulin.
I've never been described as angelic before, but I quite like that. So apparently there was that could be a hologram, of course. Have you seen that on the Eurosport's tennis coverage? That they take whoever they're interviewing in the French Open, and they somehow hologram them into the studio as if they're standing there. It's very strange.
That's like the Star Trek transporter.
Anyway, who has come to the wicket? Who else but poor old Joe Root? He doesn't get a rest, does he? Because of the England openers and top order batsman. He's in with only 18 on the board.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a pict, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root, actually.
It is Joe Root, actually, and he's facing his first ball of the summer in Test cricket outside the off stump. Just drops down on that at the last moment and defended into the offside. 18 for 2. Crawley gone, caught Watling, bowled Southey for just a couple. And it's a waste of a wicket because Crawley is such an attractive batsman to watch, but he's proving like so many England batsmen who want to play shots too early, and that has brought about his downfall. What's he going to think about now when he gets back into the dressing room? He needs to really understand that crease occupation early on is important. Here comes Southey, final ball of his 4th over into Root. Good ball, shoots off an inside edge down to long leg. Jameson fields, and he will keep the strike with 12 minutes to go to tea. England 19 for 2, Burns 15 and Root a single.
Some people have joined us on YouTube. Ulysses Wilberforce has retracted his message. I'm sure it was a good one. Colin says, talking of lookalikes, Conway looks like Darren Stevens to me. Well, I haven't had a good look at him without his helmet because he was wearing that for most of 2 days. Good morning, boys, says Michael Daly. And Steve Kelk says, starts with D and rhymes with oomed. Another retracted message. Oh, people are changing their minds. Gus Hayward says, evening all, loving the coverage from Tokyo. Started watching 10 minutes ago, 2 wickets. My fault, he asks? Probably not. The more balls that are taken up by wickets means fewer balls to score runs, says Jack Bennett. Not so much fearful for the English score, I'm worried about my GPL tickets.
Oh, yes! How many entries to the GPL today?
12.
Did mention it a couple of times this morning.
12.
12, sorry, I thought you said 12. Oh, well, that's better than yesterday. We're creeping up. Do take part in the GPL if you can every morning before lunch. It's great fun, and we'll have to find out what the numbers were today. Jameson bowls to Root for the first time in Test cricket, and Root drops forward in compact and perfect defence, pushing square on the offside, and there is no run, which is a legend which is labelled to one of our wonderful t-shirts, and you can get those as well. Another way of helping out guerrilla cricket without thinking that it's costing you any money is to go to our merchandise stall, which you'll find on the website, and buy, like Jay Grover has done, a completely outsized shower curtain with the gorilla legend upon it. But also there is no run. That is one of our t-shirts. There is no run. Jameson into Root. A good ball, probing him around middle and legs, making it swing from leg perhaps. And Root is equal to it, pushing up to mid-on. And there
what
is
percentage
no run.
Of these first 6 overs, do you think the balls have been hitting the stumps? I think a lot.
There's been quite a lot of away swing.
Yes, they've been good.
But they've been very full, and virtually everything has been on the stumps. Certainly from Jameson.
Well, no, Jameson's entire first over was way too wide of off stump.
Yeah, that first over was kind of an over of looseness, really. In again, bowls onto the hip of Root. He turns that quite fine. He might look for a second. I think he's going to go second. Might get 4 for it. No, it's... yes, indeed it is. Root came back for the second, but Wagner down there couldn't prevent it. He was too square at long leg, and Root has a boundary.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's really nicely timed up the hill. Wagner he dived. He looked like he got stuck partway up the slope. It wasn't really much of a dive.
No, he pulled out of the dive about a yard before the ball.
Yes, he didn't actually it would have helped if he'd stuck his hands out.
Yeah.
Goes on to 5. Burns has 15. 355 is the deficit. As Jameson is in full again, Root leans into this and drives it. Pierce is the offside field between cover and extra. We'll get back for a second. Williamson is the man pursuing it, and Root moves on to 7.
I've seen the ball plug many times in the outfield, but you don't usually see fielders plug. That's what happened to Wagner. He just sort of stopped. I mean, not Simon Jones-esque, which was horrible. Andrew Cook on YouTube says that I think that was Jameson's first wicket outside New Zealand, being that it was his first test outside New Zealand. So
yes, it was indeed. Absolutely.
An obvious point made in obvious fashion. Thank you for that.
I don't know if he's got any experience at all of playing in England, whether he's come across with an under-19.
Oh, he probably played for some club.
Played some club cricket over. It probably has, but I wonder if anyone out there has that knowledge and can let us know. This is a little bit shorter of length wide, and Root wisely leaves it alone. There is no run.
Steve Kellett says, I'm thinking of my assessment of England being only 3 down by tea, maybe wildly optimistic. Well, there's 8 minutes left.
Yes, it's a little bit worrying, but Root is out there now. Rooty is out there, and all things are good when he's at the crease, I feel. And he's batting just slightly outside his crease for Jameson, and I suppose that's the lack of pace that Jameson sometimes has when he swings the ball. Can be at times a little bit floaty. Otherwise, he hits the deck hard. That's a lovely in-swinger, though, which meets bat around about the line of middle stump as Root works it up to mid-on. He's on 7. Burns 15. 25 for 2. Any more tweets?
Dara Azizi asks, can we save the follow-on? Well, if we is England, then yes, they can.
No way New Zealand are enforcing the follow-on.
What do they need? They need 179.
180
to avoid the
yeah.
Is it? I thought it was. I thought they got 378. Or they get 379.
They got 378.
Right.
So they need 179. Be absolutely sure. Southey is going to start a new over. He's going to be bowling once more to the left-handed Burns. He has figures of 1 for 6 from his first 4 overs. He's swinging the ball up the slope, which is curious. And he's got 3 slips and a gully, man at cover, a man at extra. This one does swing down the slope away from Burns, who stays well inside the line, and through to BJ Watling it goes.
I can tell you that Neil Wagner has never played cricket in England at any level.
Is that right?
Do you mean Carl Jameson?
Carl Jameson, sorry.
Oh, right. I thought you'd moved on to Neil Wagner.
No, Wagner's played at least 1 test here. Sorry, I meant Carl Jameson.
I was going to say.
And he played county cricket for
That's true.
Essex, possibly, yeah.
Can't remember. Southey again into Burns in-swinger, full, defended, up to mid-off.
Yeah, sorry, yes. Carl Jameson it is, who's never played in England at any level, not even club or a representative tour at some point.
Yeah, he couldn't get on the plane, he was too tall, I think. Maybe they'd take him in the cargo hold.
Very good point, Yeah. It's an interesting thought. He is a tall man. Kane Williamson is just having a little chat with one of his teammates. Southey's back in, he bowls him a short one, and for a moment Burns thought I might have a pull at this, but it got a little bit bigger on him. It was a little bit outside off stump, so he pulled out of the shot, probably wisely, if there are still those 2 men back. And
that
was the right course of action, I would say.
This was an important part of Rory Burns' evolution as a test batter. He did get bounced out a bit by Australia and a little bit by the West Indies as well, but then throughout that Ashes series, as they bowled shorter and shorter at him, he got better and better at when to play the pull shot and how to play it. He's now a very good player off the back foot on both sides of the wicket.
Here is Southey again in, outside off stump again, and gets the same result, left alone. 25 for 2. We have 4 minutes, maybe 1 more over after this. 2 more balls left in this over, 1 more over before tea. And if England can survive, Steve Kellett and his dad will have been proved outrageously pessimistic.
How tall was 2 metre Peter Fulton?
Well,
he was 2 metres.
2 meters is 6'6". I think he was about 6'6". So Jameson's taller than that.
I think Jameson's a bigger man than he's a bigger man in every way than Peter Fulton. No, of course not. But he's probably a better cricketer. In again, a little bit of in swing, quicker ball perhaps. It's defended up to mid-on by Burns, and there is no run. Devon Conway is out there on the boundary and he's having a drink. Now you want to be on the other side of the other side of the ground, really, outside the tavern. Because they don't actually serve beer in the tavern anymore, do they? It's behind the tavern now.
You can't watch the cricket from where you can buy the drinks. It's just
no. You used to be able to, though, didn't you? You used to be able to in the old days.
There's been a debut first class 100 for Emilio Gay for Northants.
Okay.
In Pride Month, he was just out for 101.
A good ball, a little bit of nibble off the seam away from Burns, and Burns, I think, played at that. It may have just dragged his bat inside it. Anyway, that is the end of a fifth over from Southey. He's been very accurate indeed. He's got magnificent figures of 1 for 6.
Just looking up and down the county scores, astonishingly poor scoring up and down the country for a hot summer's day. A couple of decent innings. Leicester at 210 for 2.
Really?
And Northants 240 for 2. But Lancashire 172 for 9. Somerset 211 for 7. Worcestershire 131 all out. It's been lower scoring than you'd expect on a day like this. But back to the Test match.
Well, middling in the other games. Notts 152 for 3. Warwickshire 173 for 4. Sussex 160 for 4.
Yeah, Sussex. I mean, they've had a poor year, haven't they? So far, a bit like Middlesex. They just don't seem to have any batting, really. Anyway, it's going to be Jameson to complete proceedings before tea, I would imagine. 1 for 19 from his 4. He's coming in to bowl to Joe Root with 3 slips, and Root is beaten by an absolute beauty that started on middle, started to go away, kept going down the hill, and Root, as ever, grins at his conqueror in one sense. But I don't know, if you were a bowler and you bowled a fantastic ball to Joe Root and he just grinned at you, would that make you annoyed, or would you enjoy it?
No, it wouldn't. I think you'd get a volley of abuse in return for that, actually.
What, if you got annoyed about him grinning?
I think the bowler would, if the batsman grinned at you, I think you'd expect to get something back.
Oh, right, okay. He's in again, bowls. Again, around about that line. Root gets in behind this one, so perhaps just a little bit shorter. Didn't bring him forward. And defended into the offside.
Jay Grover asks, am I still the only person who bought a Gorilla Cricket shower curtain?
It seems to be. Hey, hang on, Jay. Just think, I don't know, 30 years from now, that will be at a sale during bargain hunt, and someone will buy it for hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and then try to auction it. Jameson into Root again, a little bit too wide. This one starts, so Root doesn't have to play at it. He's quite happy with that, and it's through to Watling then.
If that shower curtain lasts 30 years, I'll be very impressed.
Well, if it gets no use, of course it's going to last 30 years. After it's sort of, dealt with Jay actually showering every day.
Chris Charlie Paul has told us that Colin de Grandhome is a perfect anagram of commended long hair.
Brilliant. If that's true, it's fantastic. Jameson in again, bowls dead straight to Root, who gets right in behind it and defends it with great circumspection. Back to the bowler. We have 2 balls to go until the tea break, and England have replied to New Zealand's 378 with 25 for 2 so far. They've lost Crawley and they've lost Sibley. Burns is there on 15. Root has recently joined him, has gone to 7. And, quite a nice clear day at Lord's now. Another probing delivery from Jameson. You just feel, are we going to get the big loopy in-swinger for the, as it were, the denouement of the session? So just rubbing that ball gently against his leg. A bit of shine. Are we still saliva free? I think we are, aren't we?
I believe so, yes.
Not allowed to apply saliva to the ball, but you can apply sweat. I've just seen that apparently Portugal is going back on the amber list. That'll be down to Man City and Chelsea going there last week, presumably. Jameson then in, bowls to Root. support and does keep coming. But Root plays it really nicely, waits for it so late, and then just drops it down into the slips. Totally in control of the delivery. That, I believe, will be T. Although no one seems to be walking off right now. No, they are now. It is indeed T. England have moved to 25 for 2. Sibley gone for not many. Crawley gone for not many. And a pretty good little session there, chaps, for the visitors.
Yes, very much so. They needed to make use of the new ball and not let England get away to a good start, and they've done absolutely that. They've bowled very well, and they've deserved the wickets they've got. I mean, you can say, OK, Crawley did throw his wicket away, but nonetheless they bowled other good balls which didn't take wicket or were close to taking wicket or were LBW appeals. So they've bowled very well, and I thought Sibley was undone by a very good delivery, and Crawley didn't help himself. He probably threw his wicket away.
Well, and also they added 64 runs in 12 overs, particularly with Wagner particularly good, supporting Conway to that magnificent 200. So all in all, a pretty well scripted session as far as your Black Caps are concerned.
Yeah, just the final few tweets. Brian Barish.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would have.
Sorry, Hendo.
No, I was just going to say that they will, they will probably feel that they would like to have got a few more runs, but they'll be quite happy that they've got those early wickets, won't they?
Brian Barish says, I feel like following the county matches so far, we've seen a lot of circa 15 wickets first days across the board and only a handful of dominant batting performances. He wants to say that so much, he's tweeted to us 3 times in various incarnations. And as regards Jay Grover's shower curtain, Neil Franklin says they don't wash in Yorkshire.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Of course. Right, well, we shall be back in about probably 15 minutes, really, by the time we sign off. I'm hoping that we've got 1 or 2 highlights ready to go just for a little while. Do remember, of course, that you can go to our website and read wonderful articles and excerpts from cricket books, which I think you'll find really enjoyable. You might even want to buy the book after you've read 1 or 2 of them. So please make use of the written side of our website as well as the spoken side, because that kind of thing helps us get, if not rich, able to keep going. So anything you do on that, every time you click on something, the better it is for us. So in about 14 minutes now, we'll be back. What have we got? What are we playing?
We are playing, we're continuing with the 2019 World Cup final. The last time these two met at Lords. We pick up in the 20th over with Johnny Bestow just having been dismissed for 36 and England 71 for 3.
Oh, that's a big wicket. He's the man who's out there. Very big wicket.
The
man who's been out there 20 overs. He was looking, the bat was a mile from the pads, the inside edge, and he's got away with it on any number of occasions. He didn't get away with it this time. He chopped it straight onto the top of his bails.